Three, two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, Elite Heat is back. And Kevin, I must say, real quick, the WrestleMania 17 and 19 show, you tell me he's doing pretty well? People are enjoying it? Is that what I'm hearing?
That is exactly what you're hearing. People are loving it. You guys are playing it. If you do stumble upon this podcast on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple, Pandora, Stitcher, give us a review or something so that way we can get into the algorithm. That would be fantastic and much, much appreciated.
Yeah, pal. I think that show was... A lot went into that WrestleMania 17 and 19 show. I know over on the old YouTube, the comments have been very positive about the detail we went into. The podcast platform,
Yes.
You're playing it. So that's awesome. Keep playing, keep rating them, keep sharing. Means a lot for our show. So there's that, Kevin. But yeah, today we've got the top 10 WrestleManias ever. The format for that one, I think you guys are going to enjoy. We argue over some stuff, we agree on some stuff, we discuss some of the best WrestleManias of all time. Another good WrestleMania themed show. So you guys should enjoy that, Kevin.
A little teaser. I challenged Jimmy on his stance on WrestleMania 30. I took him to task. So that's one thing to look forward to that I think you guys will like.
Yeah, and my placement of WrestleMania 28, I think no one will agree with that, but, go have a listen, keep listening. So, Kevin, there's that. But firstly, as we do, as is our tradition here, we're going to discuss a bit of extra, so current wrestling, things that's going on, just being a nice topical and relevant. So, Kevin, where do you want to start us off?
Okay, can we start with Dynamite? I'm excited to talk about this whole bar mitzvah segment. I can't hold my excitement in anymore, pal.
Well, Kevin, just before we start, I just want to say it was Dynamite, so great show, really enjoyed it. Tony Khan's amazing, great show.
Yes, of course. It was a great show. Of course. Dynamite, fantastic. 2 hours. Loved every second of it, pal. With that being said, this opening segment, they opened the show with MJF's bar mitzvah. And it was quickly interrupted by Jungle Boy Jack Perry. And then Sammy Guevara came out. And then shortly after that, Darby Allin came out. So the clear direction here, and Tony Khan is making it very clear for his audience, for those who, you may have some dwindle of doubt, but no, he made it very clear. After Revolution, Dynamite, the main event scene of Dynamite is moving forward with the future, with AEW homegrown talents, no more WWE rejects for the moment. And on one hand, I'm interested to see where it's going, but on the other hand, I don't know if this was the best representation of what is going to be the main card of AEW. And not even because it's the guys that are involved. It's the way they went about this promo. Essentially, Jungle Boy came out and was like, literally what he said, not word for word, but to paraphrase, he's like, I've been in mid-card hell since I started in AEW. I was in a year-long feud with Christian, and my dad's famous, and I want to make him proud. So I want to become AEW champion. I want to beat MJF. And then Sammy Guevara comes out and is basically like, I've spent my whole time in AEW in the mid-card. He literally said word for word, verbatim, I was the job guy for the inner circle. He's got the guy that was bumping around. Literally, that's what he's saying. I'm bumping around. I'm the guy that flew around the ring. I'm the athletic guy amongst a bunch of old guys in the Jericho Circle. And then later the Jericho Appreciation Society. And then Darby Allin comes out and is like, I'm tired of being in Sting's shadow. I'm tired of being Sting's mentor or mentee. So this is the three top guys of AEW, along with the AEW champion. This is what we're being told. And they're coming out talking about how they're mid-card champion, or they were mid-card for life guys, job guys that do the bumps, guys that hang around legends to get relevant. Like that, how does that build? I don't want to be too hyper negative. Try to be reasonable. Like, how does that build up the future of these three guys? How does that build up your future stars? I'll pose that question to you.
Well, Kevin, we like to be as kind of fair as possible on this show, and this is the sort of thing, what you've just read out there, and that literally happened. That's not us saying over-exaggerating or saying something that didn't happen. That's literally what happened as well in the segment. Something like that happens in WWE Kevin, we were talking off recording. You mentioned a great example, which I'll feel free to give us again here.
Yeah, so it's kind of like in the build-up to WrestleMania 29, when CM Punk came out, it was like, I want to challenge The Undertaker to a match at WrestleMania. And then Randy Orton is like, no, I want to challenge The Undertaker to a match at WrestleMania. I'm a main eventer. I haven't done anything. You sit down, Punk. You've been WWE champion. Then Sheamus comes out. It's like, I want to challenge The Undertaker because I'm Irish, fella. And then Big Show comes out. It's like, I'm Big Show. I deserve to challenge The Undertaker. I'm still a big deal. I'm a superstar. And then that segment was so bad that a writer allegedly got fired within like an hour after the show going off the air, whoever wrote that segment. And like that was the buildup for The Undertaker's WrestleMania match. This is prior to the streak being broken. This is 2013.
Yes.
This is still when The Undertaker literally is the draw of WrestleMania.
Yep.
And that's the buildup. Philip Jack Brooks just being like, hey, I want to wrestle him. And then 3 other wrestlers coming out saying, no, I want to wrestle him. And then they had a fatal 4-way match on Raw. And people were shitting on that segment. And AEW kind of does something similar, and people praise it. And I get it, it's similar. It's similar, but it's not the same. So I understand that. But for me, I want to say this too. When I look at those 4 guys involved, actually 3 guys, because MJF's already champion, a made guy. He's going to WWE next year.
Yep.
I look at those 3 guys, Jack Perry, Sammy Guevara, and Darby Allin. Jack Perry is the one that has the most mainstream appeal, so he's not going to win the championship because Tony Khan doesn't want that. Like Jungle Boy is a guy you could put on whatever, Fox News. You could put him on a talk show, Good Morning Today, and you could be like, wow, Luke Perry's son is here. For those of you who don't know, Luke Perry's son is a famous wrestler. He's AEW champion. Yeah. So good publicity, good PR. Tony Khan wants none of that, so you already know Jack Perry's not sniffing the title. But so, like, realistically, who can you see being, like, a big star out of those 3 guys?
So, outside of MJF, so we're talking about the AEW pillars, Kevin. The pillars of AEW, the guys who are the future, the big stars, the big deals. As you say, MJF.
Yeah, Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara.
Well, not Sammy Guevara, I can tell you that much. Darby Allin, can you imagine him representing AEW on Jimmy Fallon?
Yes. I could see Tony Khan doing that.
Oh my god.
I can see it.
I don't know. But yeah, pal, I just want to say, because obviously MJF's a made star now. Like they've successfully made MJF. Now granted, outside of like the wrestling bubble, how big a star is he? Waits to be seen. Give that some time. But as far as in the wrestling circle, he's a made guy at this stage, which is really good. Tick to AEW, hats off there. He's, in my opinion, no debate going to WWE next year. I don't think he has any respect for Tony Khan, genuinely the person, whereas Triple H he grew up idolizing. He grew up watching WWE. He loves Triple H. Triple H is one of his favorite wrestlers, along with Ric Flair. And WWE, his best buddy Cody's there. You've got, a whole world to conquer in WWE. In AEW, he's feuded with all the top guys, basically. He's been world champion now. What more is there to do? Wrestle more indie midgets? Like, come on. I don't want to use the term indie midgets, but because that's a very broad, general term, very kind of, they're not that small, but it's more so in the sense of these guys, they're just not compelling enough for MJF. MJF, you need compelling acts. And for him, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, I look at the guys WWE building at the moment, Triple H is trying to make into stars. There's so much for MJF to do over in WWE that I look at in AEW and the prospect of him having a world title feud with Sammy G, Darby Allin, and Jack Perry, pal. It's I personally don't feel any need to see that, Kevin. I don't know about you, but for me, none of those guys versus MJF is at all captivating for me.
Is there a way that they could make it captivating?
They need to get creative. They need to get creative. And what I mean by creative is, let's say MJF is feuding with Jungle Boy. I don't know the storyline you do. I haven't written down a 3-page fantasy booking for it. I don't know. That's the AEW writers and Tony Khan's job. and all the bookers there to figure out. But there needs something that goes beyond, I wrestled Christian for 2 years, and I was in the Jurassic Express with Marco Stunt and a literal 6'5" guy who dressed like a dinosaur. I should wrestle you and win the title, a double or nothing MJF. And MJF being like, and just whatever MJF promo MJF cuts about car crashes or Liv Morgan or whatever, you know? Like, there needs to be something of substance besides what Tony Khan does, where Jungle Boy and MJF are going to have a great match. Like, the rest they can figure it out and spend 6 weeks on TV doing whatever. But they're going to have a good match at the pay-per-view, pal. So, yeah.
There you go. And real quick, pal, what's your honest thoughts on the Elite and Hangman Page seemingly teasing a reuniting at the end of the show?
Cinema. Kevin, I saw that on social media. People were freaking out about that, and saying like that's better than the Bloodline. That's the best thing. I was like they did one segment, they teased something, so cool. I guess that's better than the 9-month, 10-month Bloodline storyline that we've seen, I guess. But I don't know. I don't want to just make it all comparison WWE. I just want to just say with that, wait to see how that plays out with AEW. Hopefully, it leads to something compelling. Hopefully, it leads to CM Punk coming back. And they're doing a whole storyline about Punk not being able to manage a target and the Elite feuding with him. Hopefully it leads to that, because if it doesn't, waits to be seen. Hopefully it's good, but who knows? Kevin, over to you.
There you go. Man, I don't really have much, too much to say. I just know that this is the beginning of a slow burn storyline where we're probably going to get, now next week, we'll get a backstage segment where Hangman is, sitting at a bar. And Matt Jackson comes in and just doesn't say anything, just pays the bar tab, looks at Hangman, walks away. And then, the following week, we'll get another similar segment. Hangman's at a grocery store buying sandwiches. Matt Jackson comes in and is like, "What's up, Hangman? Talk to you next week live on Dynamite." And then next week, then we'll get that live on Dynamite segment. Hangman will come out, cut a 5-minute dialogue about how he misses the Elite. And he just needs to be his own star. He needs to be his own guy. Then Kenny Omega will come out and be like, "Hangman, I respect you." And then rinse, wash, repeat for the next 6 weeks. And then we'll get a match that everybody will give 5.5 stars. That's likely where this is going. I don't know if CM Punk is going to be the guy that's going to be coming back, or he's going to be the big surprise, pal. I don't know. We'll see. But let's talk about Raw, SmackDown.
Pal, we need to address the Cody Roman, the WrestleMania main event, and the tag title match, and everything's happening with that, Kevin, because I've seen people saying Cody is carrying the WrestleMania build. Thank God for Cody. Oh my God, Cody, this is so good. And I want to look at this in a fair, not rose-tinted glasses lens, because I feel as kind of podcasters here, our jobs will be a little bit sort of neutral, not just oh my God, I love this, but then again, I'm a bit Roman Reigns biased, I must say. Reigns is my guy, but that said, I look at this Cody stuff, Kevin. On Raw, he has a match with LA Knight, cuts a promo, a passionate 1 minute, I'm going to prove myself at WrestleMania, I'm going to overcome Roman, babyface stuff. Good promo. And nothing wrong with that. And then on SmackDown, I want your thoughts on this, and I'll pass to you in a moment. Cody comes out, he comes out to open SmackDown, which I've found that weird. I'm not used to saying that. I'm used to either Roman opening the show or something Bloodline related for literally 2.5 years opening SmackDown. So Cody comes out to open SmackDown, which right away to me felt odd. He gets his usual reaction, whoa, which that's great, I must say. I love that part of Cody's entrance. He comes out, he goes, "Kansas, what do you want to talk about?" And then he goes, "Kevin Owens, I want to talk to you, not at you. Kevin Owens, come on out here." Hey, Kevin Owens comes out. Then he goes, "I want to talk to Sami Zayn as well. Sami, come on out." And Sami comes out. I felt like I was watching a Miz TV. That was the only thing I felt watching that part. And then Cody goes, He's trying to get them on the same page. I get what they're using Cody as. They're using Cody as literally like the Miz in this situation, like the one to try and either further or grow the friction / connection between the two, that sort of thing. So Cody's trying to like, get them on the same page. He's like, Kevin Owens, 7 years ago, and I was on my way out the door, and I was in the process of future endeavoring my own employer, which that was a weird line. Kevin Owens, I saw your come up. I respect you, Kevin. Backstage, we were buddies. I respected you, Kevin Owens. And now we stand in this ring, and Kevin Owens is like wants to hug him. And then Sami Zayn starts shouting and trying to plead his case why Owens should be his friend at WrestleMania. And the segment set up a good ending to the show. I'm not going to throw shade. It was a well done ending. The night-long storyline was good. But I just want to throw to you, Kevin, your thoughts on Cody opening SmackDown, being the main act on Raw this week, being really the main star for a week. This is what we'll probably see if he wins a WrestleMania going forward. What are your thoughts? Where are you at with the WrestleMania main event? Talk to us.
The code's there, pal. So, it's a lot to unpack. For one, we predicted that this would happen. We knew what would happen based on watching AEW, based on watching Cody as a main event guy, watching him cry in feuds over Anthony Ogogo and what's the guy, the Perfect 10?
Sean Spears, yeah. Spears.
Yeah, watching Cody cry over guys like Sean Spears, Anthony Ogogo. And we literally, word for word, created a storyline where in 9 months' time, at TLC 2023, Cody would be crying going into a match with Kevin Owens, talking about how he has a ton of respect for Kevin Owens. He shook his hand at a Ring of Honor tryout. Cody came in to talk to his Ring of Honor class as like the big WWE star, here to tell these kids what it's like to be in the business. He saw Kevin Owens, met him, and was like, "Yeah, you're going to be the face of WWE in 10 years. I know it, pal." And sure enough, we got exactly what we called, but we didn't get it in December. We're getting these segments in March, which for me that's the red flag right there. Like creatively, they already hit a point where they got nothing else for Cody, where he's just like Cody. To me, how do I say this in a nice way? Cody was like, he was like an extra in this bloodline storyline.
Yes.
So I know some people like the way they use Cody. I'm not really sure what there is to love about what Cody did. All he did was get Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens talking. He really wasn't a star of the segment. And then at the end, when they're hugging, we flashed to him crying. He's like watching his children like grow up or something. He's crying, looking at Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens hug. And he feels like an extra. And he's the guy that's going to walk into WrestleMania and he's presumably going to beat Roman Reigns. I mean, he's a heavy favorite. He's like a minus 500 favorite right now at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
To beat Roman at WrestleMania. And he's being used as like a pawn to further another storyline that isn't really relevant to him. For me, my opinion, they could have done this without having Cody there. They could have done exactly what they did. The opening segment, you could have had anybody else. You could have had, I don't know, you could have had Adam Pearce come out there and say, "Oh, these are my buddies from ROH. Let's get them here in the ring. Let's get them talking." And it would have accomplished the same thing that Cody accomplished. And it was just like, it was having Cody on the show for the sake of having Cody on the show. When you don't have Roman there, which, he's going to be on Raw, so he wasn't on SmackDown last night. So it makes sense. But you don't have Roman there. Do you need Cody there too? Did we really need a Cody appearance on SmackDown? I don't really think so, to be honest. I think it would have been better if he had just stayed off the show.
Well, Kevin, I'll play devil's advocate just for a moment because I know the counter argument to this, and I think we should address it before the comments blow up and everyone freaks out. Cody was there mainly because he wants Owens and Zayn on the same page so they can all, as a united front, take on the bloodline, basically. Because Cody's taking on the big boss, the top G Roman, and then the Usos are going to be taking on Zayn and KO. So, in fairness, there's that. But I 100% agree with what you're saying there. this segment, the way Cody, I don't know. Are we reading too much into this, Kevin? I'm sure we'll have people say, "Oh my God, you're hating everything, freaking out." But Kevin, this is what we discussed for an hour in Is Cody Rhodes a Main Eventer? This is literally what we talked about, because beyond Roman Reigns, who, by the way, once again, in that segment with Cody Rhodes 2.5 weeks ago on SmackDown, their face-off, I watched that segment back. Roman Reigns was that far clear of Cody Rhodes. It was borderline uncompetitive for most of the segment. When Reigns finished his 3-minute long promo, Cody was genuinely, oh, okay, wow. Well, that's what the being face to face with the big G looks like. Okay, how do I go from here? Right? Roman was just that far clear, and Cody in that moment, it felt a bit of a shoot. He knew, he's now I'm in deep water. I can, I can mess around, but now I've found out, sort of thing. That's what it felt like. And to me, Kevin, I just want to make this take. Maybe it's my Roman Reigns fandom. I don't think, because Cody hasn't done a lot wrong per se. This is the thing. We're not hating Cody just for the sake of hating it. I'm not hating it all. I'm trying to be fair with what I'm watching. I don't want, and I'm not ready for Roman Reigns to lose the title. I'm just not. And I know the counterpoint is, well, who is going to beat him? I don't know. Kevin, I do not know who is the guy to beat Roman Reigns. I don't, but I watched this segment and watched this SmackDown. This is what a SmackDown will look like when Roman's out of the picture after WrestleMania. This is what it will look like. Cody will come out. There'll be something involving Zayn and Owens. You'll have the Usos out there, and then there'll be some other stuff, then that's about it. No Roman. Kevin, SmackDown last night is what post-WrestleMania SmackDown will look like, and I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for Roman's 930-day championship run to end. I'm just not. Which feels incredible to say, because he's nearly 3 years into a run. I'm not ready for it to end. I don't want it to end, Kevin. That's just me.
So now here's the question that will make things unsettling here. Is this a reflection on Roman and his status as a top guy? Because this is we've seen this now for years. Roman he's main evented 7 WrestleManias, and he's been given every Hall of Famer you could possibly imagine working with. He's wrestled The Undertaker. He's wrestled Brock 3 times. Edge, Daniel Bryan. And his WrestleMania main events, the only one that was intriguing was a triple threat match. Is this, are we not looking at this enough where it could be the other guy that's just not able to get people up to his level?
Yes and no. I think no in the sense of when you watch the show week to week. Well, when I watch the show week to week, so I can speak for myself, the listeners may think otherwise, you may think otherwise. When I watch the shows week to week and Reigns comes out and his presentation nowadays, he's the best thing going. The act is by far better than anything else. That Bloodline act feels, and mainly just Roman's role, feels like such a big deal. So in that sense, from a week-to-week show perspective, which is how I view, what I'm watching here, Reigns is just by far better than anyone. But what you're alluding to, Kevin, is his more so WrestleMania, and we can discuss SummerSlam and Royal Rumble and all these other shows. His, I guess.
Well, hold on. Before you go, let me say this too. You used the phrase yourself. You said Roman clears Cody.
Yeah.
By far and away.
Yes.
So forget Roman's WrestleMania past. Forget his SummerSlam past. Let's look at his title reign. That's a common theme in just about every storyline he's been involved in. You look when he faced McIntyre going into Survivor Series 2020. In the promos and the build-up to that match, everybody was like, wow, Roman is here and McIntyre is way down here. And he was, at that time, he was the second, pretty much the second guy in the company.
Yeah.
He was just underneath Roman. You look at it with Daniel Bryan. You look at it with Cesaro. Even Edge to an extent. Edge held his own more in the build for Money in the Bank than everybody else did. But it was still wow, Roman is that guy. He's clearly above that guy. And maybe Roman is not that great at putting people over. I think, if you just look at the past and his track record, I think there's some weight to that argument.
Well, Kevin, my counterpoint to that will be which top star in WWE, so we're talking like Cena, Austin, Hogan, which of those guys could you say was, he was great at putting people over? Because I've seen people make the case, Austin never put anyone over. I've seen people say that. I've seen the same thing about Cena up until about 2016. Like, really, Cena's run as top guy. One of the big themes I saw is people say he wouldn't put people over. Like, no one really got over. And the same criticism is fairly put on Roman here. And, well, not to say what you're saying is criticism, but the same kind of point you're making about Roman applies there. And Hogan was the same. Like, when you're in that role in WWE, it's rare that you're someone who just really consistently puts people over to say that. I think it's fair.
And what I mean by putting people over is not like taking the pin, shoulders down on the mat, 1, 2, 3, staring at the lights. I mean making the audience believe in your opponent as being a credible threat to you and your status as a top guy, your status as a champion. And I personally think guys like Triple H and guys like Cena were great at that, you know? Like Cena, Cena can make just about anybody feel like an important opponent when they're in the ring with him. He made Rusev's career. He made Bray Wyatt's career. And like, that's just two names that come to mind. Those guys, yeah, you could say they were quote unquote buried by Cena. But Rusev, realistically, if Rusev doesn't have that 4-month-long feud with Cena, and Cena makes him feel like a credible, legitimate threat to his star status, Rusev would have been future endeavored by 2016. You know, now Rusev's making a living off of that run, essentially, with Cena, where he had the cool entrance at WrestleMania 31. You know, he was made to feel like he's on the same level as Cena. And Triple H is another one. But the Booker T aside, just about anybody else Triple H got in the ring with, he would say things in a way where he would build them up and make them seem credible, or he would fear them, whatever it was. Benoit, Batista, Orton, you know, who like it just feels like Roman Reigns. I don't want to say selfish. I don't think that's the right word.
No, it's not the right word.
But he's just not as. Yeah, he's just. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel like, I don't get that same feeling when you're watching a guy like Cesaro facing Roman. I don't even think that you would disagree with me. If roles were reversed and Cena was facing Cesaro as the top guy, Cena would have made Cesaro feel like a credible challenger in a better way than Roman does.
Yeah, and we saw that in 2015 as well. Like Cena and Cesaro, and they had these it was like a 25-minute match, and Cena wins, and he's like, afterwards he's like, wow, that guy is good, and then like put him over. That sort of thing. So
yeah. Right.
No, that's fair. That's because, yeah, it's the presentation of Roman. I think, I don't know, Kevin, this is a whole extra podcast in itself. We'll have these discussions after WrestleMania especially. I feel like there's going to be plenty of time and plenty of months for us to really deep dive into this, because there's a lot to unpack here. But that said, Kevin, yeah, SmackDown this week, you know, the big thing, I want to discuss one more thing before we transition into the main podcast today, the top 10 WrestleManias. The main event of WrestleMania, Kevin, for night one. What do you think the main event of night one should be? Because there was a Wrestling Observer report from our pal Meltzer that it should be, it's going to be Rhea versus Charlotte for the women's title. But then that got shot down. Other sources said that that's cap. What do you think the main event should be? What would your preference be, pal?
I mean, I think it has to be the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at this stage. Realistically, you have no second top title because Roman holds both titles. Charlotte versus Rhea, like, I get it. Rhea won the Royal Rumble. You want to have the Women's Royal Rumble main event one night at WrestleMania. Okay, that's fine. But that's not going to be the best presentation of what WrestleMania is, you know? The best presentation of what WrestleMania is putting the most important acts on television leading up to the show in the main event. And that's the Usos, Kevin Owens, and Sami Zayn. they've been by far the best acts on WWE TV. They've been better than Cody. They've been better than Roman. They've been better than all the females in the company. It's just is what it is. And those guys should main event, in my opinion. What do you think?
I don't. This is the thing. If it main events, I'm fine with that. Excuse me. If it main events, I'm fine with it. I have no issue. That said, why does that have to be on night one? Why can't that be on night two? And the night two becomes about the bloodline, and the whole night is about, you maybe open the show with that, and Roman Reigns right off the jump's pissed, and like they can start the night off with a big WrestleMania moment on night one with the tag title win, and then you carry it on through the show. That throws off Roman. There's backstage segments of Roman screaming at the Usos. You got like Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens are celebrating, and you can put that all in one night. Kevin, I think what screams WrestleMania most for night one, for the main event, is John Cena, Austin Theory for the US title. And my reasoning is Cena's the biggest star of the last 20 years. He's the last household name. He's the last megastar. We know that. So you've got a guy as legitimate and credible as Cena. Then you've got Theory, who in WWE's eyes and in many people's eyes is one of the future stars of the company. One of the guys who they're trying to make. The US title, you're going to elevate that. And just as well, we talk about how to end a WrestleMania night one. We saw it last year with Steve Austin and Kevin Owens. It's hardly a match that, 15 years down the line, you're going to say that was an incredible match. But it was really cool watching Steve Austin, potentially for the last time ever, wrestle. And that's much the same as Cena. Cena did an interview where he said, this could well be one of the last times or last time I do this. And that's why he's really taking it in much more now. You can make the whole thing that Austin Theory beats Cena and they have a pretty good match. Theory gets legitimized on the biggest stage. Hollywood, the world's watching. And Kevin, WrestleMania Night 1 can end with John Cena taking off the armband, taking off the cap, putting it in the ring, and, crying, big farewell, big moment for Cena. Because Kevin, Cena has not had a WrestleMania moment end, really, because all his WrestleMania main events, Kevin, 29, he was getting literally booed when The Rock was telling him this is the guy. 28, he was sitting on the stage crying. 27, The Miz beat him. And WrestleMania 23, I guess, and 22. But that was 17 years ago. Like, I think Cena having a moment to end the show, everyone would love it. I don't think there'd be many people who have a bad thing to say about it. It would go over better than Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. It'd go over... that's just me. Am I talking sense? What do you think?
No, that's fair. I mean, Cena, yeah. I mean, you're talking about a literal main eventer. John Cena is a main eventer. Yeah, I think that could work too. I'm not against that. The only thing with putting Cena and Austin Theory in the main event is people already hate Austin Theory. Like he's already starting to get that hate where they're calling him overrated. They're sending him death threats. They want him off the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would be best for Austin Theory to just shovel him out to a main event when he's already you look at the two guys that are involved and it's like Austin Theory is 3-4 steps below Cena. And I think that's being kind, saying he's 4 steps below Cena. And then you're going to make it all about John Cena? Like Austin Theory is going to get the win and then he's just going to be like, all right, bro, I'm out. Go ahead, do your thing, Cena. Then you make it all about Cena. You close the show with Cena.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it would have the same effect as the 38 night one main event had. Like Kevin Owens, yeah, he's not a massive star, but Kevin Owens is already a made guy. People have no problem with Kevin Owens. People are going to be watching that like, Austin Theory. Like one, they're not even going to be thinking about him because it's all going to be about Cena. Like the next night, they're going to be like, who is this guy? Austin Theory? Remind me? And like that, like, the bigger problem is that'll be a moment that he'll live on for the rest of his career. He'll be coming out like Paul Heyman after Brock Lesnar beat Undertaker's streak. We'll have Austin Theory for the next 8.5 months saying, I beat Cena for the U.S. title. And I don't know if that's going to be a good look,
Well, I'd argue at least if that happens, he'd have something. Because right now he has nothing, sort of thing. He has nothing to go off. Like, what is Theory going off as the character? This would be him beating his childhood idol. Pal, A-Town down. This would be him beating his childhood idol, and the main event, it's not really the main event, because the main event's Cody and Roman, but like the closing match of night one, I just think it would work, and I just think people just love to go, oh, the Usos and Zanko must main event night one. Why does it have to why can't that open night 2? Would that be the end of the world? I think that would flow better. You can have the whole bloodline thing unfold on night 2. Night 1 can be like everything else, and then night 2 can be all about the bloodline. That's how I'd do it, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's apples and oranges. You can't go wrong either way with either one. if Cena in theory main event, like, that'd be cool, you know? Cena's a big star. Like, the argument's there. Cena's the biggest star in the company. If he's literally a main eventer, so put him in the main event. The Usos, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, they deserve it just for busting their ass, crafting this great storyline. So you put them in there. I think that's also a better representation of the future of what WWE is going to be. So when people are watching the end of Saturday Night Show, you know, they're gonna see all 4 guys on TV again next week. You know, they're gonna see like, oh wow, this is like, they're gonna watch the video package. People that haven't seen any of the past 9 months storyline, they're gonna watch the video package. They're gonna be like, wow, this is good. Like, these 4 guys are good. Paul Heyman's involved. Roman Reigns involved. Like, this is a great storyline. What have I been missing?
And they'll get that on night 2. They'll get that on night 2 anyway. Like, I don't know if you need both nights. Needs to be that. That's just what I'm saying. But I don't know. We'll
I mean, yeah, but night 2, you're gonna get Roman and Cody. They're not gonna be showing all the great cinema stuff that we've been seeing for the past 9 months. So I think it'd be good also too to give those 4 guys their own spotlight. I think it'd be just beneficial for the future, like I said.
So yeah, do with that what you will. I mean, we've gone nearly 40 minutes, pal. So I think we can transition into our main content. Would you say?
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah, pal. Top 10 WrestleManias ever. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Elite Heat. Today, what we're doing, I'm looking forward to a lot. The top 10 WrestleManias ever. All right, this one, it does vary person to person. There is no one objective way of doing this. So we figured it would make a great podcast for you wonderful listeners, something that can give you some worthwhile content, some entertaining stuff, a bit of debate, because I know, Kevin, how we're doing this, and for all the listeners, I have written up my 10, Kevin's written up his 10, and some honourable mentions, and we're going to go through our lists. There's going to be a lot of clash here. I've put a couple in mine, not on purpose, because I actually do mean where I've put these WrestleManias, but I know Kevin's going to have a stroke listing some of this. So, yeah, I'll throw it to you, Kevin. How you doing, pal?
I'm good, pal. I just want to say my list is correct. Everyone else's list is wrong, pal. I'm like the Dave Meltzer star rating system. If you don't agree with me, F you, as one Philip Jack Brooks would say, pal. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. We are very inclusive here at Elite Heat. If you disagree, that's fine. If you think I'm an idiot, let me know. If you think Jimmy's an idiot, let him know in all caps. And yeah, nevertheless, pal, are you ready to discuss our top 10 WrestleMania shows of all time?
Sure am, pal. And I think coming off the back of last week, which if you haven't listened to that show, I would thoroughly recommend. It's, I think, our longest Elite Heat ever. There was so much stuff in that episode where we did WrestleMania 17 versus WrestleMania 19. We debated the GOAT WrestleManias. We discussed a lot of stuff about them, thorough reviews, breakdown, their legacy all time. And then Kevin, we finished the show by talking about our Mount Rushmore WrestleManias, our best WrestleManias. So that leads us to that today, Kevin. Should be good.
Oh yeah, that's kind of what like triggered the idea in my brain to wanting to do this podcast. Originally we were gonna do something else, but I was like, that pal. After that outro that we recorded on our WrestleMania 17 versus 19 debate, and we spoke about our top 4 WrestleManias, our holy grail of WrestleManias. Yeah, I thought that was a good discussion, and it set the table, it set the bed, pal, for what we're about to discuss here. So you want to just get to it? I'll give you my list, and then you could go after me. How's that sound?
Oh, so do you want to do honorable mentions first, or do you want to just go from like number 1 or number 10?
Yeah, I'll do honorable mentions. Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? We should read the criteria first of what makes a WrestleMania top 10 all time in our minds.
Yeah.
So 1, it must have a top 50 match of all time. Okay, if it doesn't have a top 50 wrestling match, not WrestleMania match, wrestling match, period, I'm not considering it. Maybe a WrestleMania. I'll give you one of my honorable mentions now. WrestleMania 14, the crowning moment of the Attitude Era. the crowning moment of Austin. It kickstarted the biggest boom period in wrestling, but it didn't have a top 50 match of all time. And the show just didn't flow that well. There were better WrestleManias in the Attitude Era. Or maybe just one better WrestleMania. But the Attitude Era wasn't that long, too, which I think is something that people maybe don't like hearing. Like, I think both of our lists are probably going to be heavy Ruthless Aggression Era. And for me, and I think you will agree, the Ruthless Aggression Era was the golden age of WrestleMania. I think that was the absolute peak of WrestleMania. I think, like 6 of my top 10 are from the Ruthless Aggression Era. So,
right.
Yeah, little spoiler. Next thing.
I'm the same. Well, actually, like 5 or 6. Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah. The next thing, the main event cannot be awful. Like we can't have that. Like WrestleMania 18, as for like Triple H and Chris Jericho standards, and for WrestleMania main event standards, that's not a good main event. So WrestleMania 18 is disqualified, pal. That number 3, third criteria. If the show is too long, it must be exceptional. That's mainly for the later era WrestleManias. When did they start doing the super long shows? Was that 32? Was that like the first 6-hour show? They had like 20 pre-show matches?
Yeah, 32. There was literally it was like 11:50 p.m. and then they had the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders come out with a flamethrower, and they hadn't even begun the main event yet. It went for like 4.5 hours. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, so thankfully, I don't think either one of us will have anything from WrestleMania 32 and on this list. Next thing, next criteria.
We'll see about that, but carry on.
Oh god, you're probably gonna put WrestleMania 33 on here. Next criteria is 5 memorable moments. So these WrestleManias, they have to have 5 memorable moments at least, minimum. And most of these will have more than 5, but they gotta have 5 big time memorable moments, whether that's a false finish, whether that's an appearance from Hulk Hogan at 71 years old, or whatever the case may be. Next up,
and Kevin, one thing. That does vary. Now, we're not saying each WrestleMania in these lists needs 5 like absolute all-time great WrestleMania moments on the one show. It does vary. Obviously, some moments aren't as memorable as others, but 5 moments you look back on and you can think of within about 30 seconds and go, that happened, that happened, that happened, that happened, that happened. That's a good way of doing it. And when I say that happened, I mean something that happened that was really good, memorable, a big time moment, that sort of thing.
Yes, sir. Could have said it better myself. And the next and final criteria is this one is a little bit, a little bit cheesy, or we're just making fun here to an extent, but I think it is real. Will I show this WrestleMania to my friends or family? Now, really think about that. Are you going to show your friends and family? For example, everybody loves WrestleMania 31. Are you going to want your friends and family to sit through, especially think about it, like, if you're, like, 20 years old and your parents are, like, 45, they grew up watching the Attitude Era, are you going to want to show them Triple H burying Sting? Or, like, are you going to want to show people, like, I don't know, WrestleMania 29, Ryback versus Mark Henry?
Oh my god.
Are you going to want to show people WrestleMania 2, Mr. T shoot fighting Roddy Piper? I don't know. If you do, more power to you. But that's like, I just want to put that criteria in here because I think that's important when looking at a great WrestleMania. I think a great WrestleMania is inclusive, is one that appeals to the masses, that anybody can watch and be like, wow, that's a great WrestleMania. Like, for example, if I show a friend that's never seen any wrestling pay-per-views or any wrestling matches or anything, I show them WrestleMania 17, they're probably going to be impressed, and they're probably going to want to watch more wrestling. But then here's another one, a real-life example in mind. I had a WrestleMania watch party with some friends that, a couple of them are wrestling fans, but a lot of them are non-wrestling fans, and we watched WrestleMania 34. That show did not make those people want to keep watching wrestling on a regular basis. They were not like, oh my god, I'm so interested in this show. Like, there was nothing really riveting on that card. But I digress, pal. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I can give my own analogy to that. When I was at school, this was 2013, a bunch of my friends were actually watching wrestling at the time. Like, Cena's there, Rock's there, Punk's there, you got The Shield, Brock. Like, there were a bunch of wrestlers who were watching. We watched WrestleMania 29, and none of us thought it was a good show, and this is when we were like younger, and this is when you realistically should be liking everything WWE's doing. Even then, we were like, that wasn't a good WrestleMania. So, yeah, there won't be a WrestleMania 29 appearance, at least on my list. Kevin, if that appears on yours, I'm ending our podcast. So,
yeah, I have WrestleMania 29 somewhere in like the top 5, pal. I mean, it may have just edged out WrestleMania 10 or something like that.
Yeah, so Kevin, just to clarify, criteria, so yeah, the top 50 all-time match, we'd say, or a match that's debatably top 50, just a really good all-time great match, at least 5 memorable moments, and then, would you show your friends? Would you be proud to show this WrestleMania to someone? Or would you go, I wouldn't want to put you through that? So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right, pal. So I'm going to go ahead and give my honorable mentions, and then you could give yours.
Yep.
So I have 5 honorable mentions. I already spoiled one with WrestleMania 14. Yep. I have WrestleMania 20. Really, the only reason why WrestleMania 20 did not make my top 10 is because of Benoit and just that gray cloud. I have WrestleMania 5 on there because I think people that are like from that era would say this is a better WrestleMania than like 23, for example, where John Cena is getting booed out of the building, or one that people may regard higher than 5. And then I have WrestleMania 6. This was pretty similar. They're both built on Hogan, and then you have like Hogan Savage at 5, and then Hogan Warrior at 6. These WrestleManias are similar to me. And really, aside from the main event, there's not really much on either one of these cards. Like, the second most notable match from WrestleMania 6 is Dusty Rhodes and Polka Dots wrestling King Savage, or Macho King.
No thanks.
Yeah, so like there's one great match on both. Like, I would say Hogan versus Savage and Hogan versus Warrior for WrestleMania 6 are both top 50 matches of all time. But I mean, aside from that, like, I don't think there's 5 memorable moments on either one of these shows.
Yeah, no, there's not.
That's like objective in the wrestling community that people look at like, wow, yeah, good moment. Obviously, the people that grew up watching this stuff will look at it differently, and that's fine. And, you could call us young kids or, criticize us however you want, but yeah. Then my last honorable mention is WrestleMania 31.
Okay.
I was close to putting this on the list. Honestly, I was pretty close. But for me, it came down to what was I going to take off from my list. And I just couldn't really justify putting 31 over any of the other 10 WrestleManias that I have. I thought, like, it was a good show. Watching it live, it was better than expected because the build was horrible. We know the infamous build. You got Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar playing tug-of-war over a fake wrestling championship belt. Yep. You got Randy Orton for like 6.5 weeks straight just coming out saying, Seth, I'm going to get my hands on you. And I can't even remember the build for Triple H versus Sting. Can you shed any light on what that build was?
Basically, Sting would come out every like 2 weeks and threaten Triple H with a bat, and Triple H would cut 20-minute promos being like, Sting, you cost me my job at Survivor Series. That was the build for 3 months.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. But the show delivered. It has a memorable moment. Arguably one of the, like, you could maybe say one of the top 8 to 12 WrestleMania moments with that Randy Orton RKO on Seth Rollins. That was great. Like, that's what elevates it into the top 15 conversation for me. And the main event was good with the actually had 2 big, like, top 12 to 15 moments with the RKO on Rollins and Rollins cashing in Money in the Bank. Like, those have to be like in the top 15, right, for WrestleMania moments all time.
I mean, they're pretty good moments. I can't dispute that. They're both pretty good, yeah.
But it's just like the classic matches. Like, are there any matches on this card that are top 50 all time?
Yeah, that's debatable.
Yeah, that's the thing.
There's not. No, there was no classic match. Some people, like Kevin, the Reigns Lesnar match is beloved by people. I've watched that match 5 or 6 times. I don't see it. I don't know. I think it's because Seth Rollins cashed in the end, and people just look back on it in such a fond light. Like, the match was Reigns and Lesnar was a good match. If we're doing stars, it was like 3.5 stars. It wasn't some like 5-star amazing match.
Well, it was better than their other 2 WrestleMania main events combined.
Well, okay. What color's the sky, Kevin? Like, of course it was, But
I'm just saying, I think that's why it's remembered fondly, because of what it's compared to,
Yeah. No, that's fair. So just Kevin, just to clarify, so your honorable mentions, you had WrestleMania 5,
Yes, sir.
WrestleMania 6,
Yep.
I believe.
Yep.
WrestleMania 20,
Yep.
31,
And 14.
and 14. Okay.
Yep. I just want to go through the card real quick for 31 for people that are going to be like, oh, this is like a top 5 WrestleMania. Triple H versus Sting wrestled for 20 minutes. We had Kevin Nash, X-Pac, Scott Hall running out. Just like the three of them could barely walk. We had John Cena versus Rusev. Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt. That was the co-headliner. AJ Lee and Paige versus the Bella Twins.
Yeah.
In a 6-minute match, 6-minute women empowerment match. Like, the only good matches on this show was the main event, which was Roman Reigns versus Brock, and then Seth Rollins making a triple threat after cashing in. And then the ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship that literally featured Daniel Bryan receiving CTE with headbutts from Nick Nemeth.
Mm.
I remember watching that, cringing so much. Just being a big Daniel Bryan fan, and like he was out for 8 months with a neck injury, and then he's back in his first match, standing on top of a ladder in the middle of San Francisco, California, headbutting Nick Nemeth. And I was like, bro, he's gonna be injured. Like, how could you watch this match and say Daniel Bryan's gonna wrestle the next night? Or wrestle 3 months after this? Not a knock on him, but I was just like I saw it. Like, I knew he'd be out of action.
Kevin, WrestleMania 31 is the most overrated WrestleMania of all time. I stand by that. I watched that show. This is as well when I was maybe 3-4 years into my fandom. I'm still enjoying, for the most part, most of what WWE is doing. I watched that show the day of, and I wasn't blown away by it at all. Like, I thought it was a fine WrestleMania. It was, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. There wasn't much there that you want to go back and rewatch. There really was not.
Now, would you say it's still top 15 though?
Well, I don't have it in my honorable. I have it like between 15 and 20 all time. I don't rate it that highly personally.
But what I think what you mean is when you say overrated, like a lot of people are like, oh my god, this is top 7, top 6 all time WrestleManias.
Correct. Yes. Correct.
And it's just not like this is just not on the level with like some of the greats WrestleManias that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So Kevin, are you ready to hear my honorable mentions?
Yes, please.
Okay, so mine, I can't wait to hear your reaction to some of these. So,
God.
For starters, I'll start with what I consider 15.
Can I ask you this real quick? You kind of answered it, but so this is your 11 through 15.
Yeah, I'm going to give you 15 through 11. I haven't numbered it, but I've got a clear number 15, and then the rest of them are honorable mentions.
Okay.
I've got WrestleMania 2000 at
No, you don't.
15.
No, you
now,
don't.
the reason the triangle ladder match. The triangle ladder match was exceptional, Kevin. Are you going to deny the Hardys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys wasn't an incredible match?
Is that a top 50 of all time?
It's a damn good match. It's exceptional.
Okay, I mean,
it's a really good match.
Okay.
The main event, it features the stars. Booking's a bit fair. I'll cop that, but
I don't believe that you believe this is a top 15 WrestleMania of all time.
Kevin,
I genuinely believe I don't believe you at all.
How dare you? Kevin, the triangle ladder match, the main event featured the big stars. The triple threat match with Benoit, Jericho, and Angle for the mid. That was an enjoyable, really fun match. I like the hardcore stuff.
Bro, I hope you realize how many...
That's 2/3 of the show, Kevin.
I hope you realize how many 41-year-olds you're pissing off right now.
No, pal, I'm kidding. I have WrestleMania 31 at 15.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that makes more sense.
I had WrestleMania 31 at 15. As I said, I put it between 15 and 20. So I had WrestleMania 31.
Okay.
From here, this one I genuinely do believe is 14, and I had a lot of fun watching it. Now, I know you're going to disagree with this. I had 37. God. I had 37 there.
Okay.
Which I'm not saying it's top 10 or top 5. I'm not going that far, but I personally really enjoyed it. I thought the main events of both nights were exceptional. Specifically, Reigns, Edge, and Bryan. I thought that was one of the great WrestleMania main events. Top 5 WrestleMania main event, I believe. Top 3, maybe. As far as the moments, I look at the Reigns stacking and pinning Daniel Bryan and Edge, 2 Hall of Famers. I look at McIntyre's entrance, the first entrance in front of fans after a global pandemic. Bianca Belair and Sasha was historic for all the reasons. 2 women of color main eventing. It was a big deal. The match was actually really good. I thought that was good. Bad Bunny, everything involving him was great. And then the rain delay was a fun, memorable moment, which you were a part of, Kevin. So, yeah, I look back on that show fondly, not fond enough to have a top 10 or anything like really big hot take. But, yeah.
Can I do like 2.5 minutes on this?
Yeah, go for it.
I would listen to your argument. Like, it's not the most egregious take. Like, I think it's fair if people want to place this WrestleMania highly. I mean, I was there live. I witnessed every single match live, both nights. I was in attendance for. I was there for the rain delay, as you mentioned, pal. And shout out to the Florida government. I didn't have to show a COVID test or anything to get into the show. They literally just took my temperature and they were like, they half-assed did it. They were just like, oh yeah, you're 98.7. Go ahead, enjoy the show. So I throw that out there. But yeah, so then it was like the funny part was we're in the middle of a global pandemic. We're what, like a year in?
Yep.
Roughly. Year and like 1 month since Rudy Gobert touched the microphone and gave the world COVID.
Yep.
And like during the rain delay, they shoved everybody into the tunnels, into the concession stand area where the merch is and the concession stand is. I have videos of me. You can watch it on my WrestleMania 37 vlog on my channel, where I'm scrunched around like 300 people. But hey, pal, social distancing. But then I couldn't sit next to anybody. We had to have like fake people, cardboard cutout people next to me and my girl, because social distance, pal. But we can stand scrunched together. I digress.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought this show was really good. I loved it. I love night 1, I should say. Bad Bunny, his entrance, his whole thing, like that's a memorable moment. Drew McIntyre's entrance, memorable moment. The Cesaro, the swing, the airplane swing, the NFT moment, bro. Roman Reigns stacking Daniel Bryan and Edge, big moment.
Yeah.
But where this show falls off a cliff is night 2. Night 2, as I'm saying this as someone who was sitting in the crowd, night 2 was borderline insufferable. Like Randy Orton and The Fiend, I didn't even know what to say watching that live. I was like, what happened to Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt? Like, did Bray Wyatt die? Like, why does Alexa Bliss have black gunk leaking from her mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was... Yeah, I mean, it was tough to watch at points.
Mm-hmm.
The tag team match was brutal. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn was not that fun.
Mm-hmm.
Apollo versus Big E was not fun. Asuka versus Rhea Ripley was not fun. Really, the only thing that was fun was Sheamus and Riddle in the main event on night 2. So I think night 2 is where the hesitancy comes for me to put it so high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is fair. If the night 2 matches were just better, and like you enjoyed it watching it live,
You mean
and
the
like,
night 1?
put a better product out, I think it would be
I see what you're saying.
near enough objective. But for what it was, that's what disqualifies it from being top 10. I feel like there was a lot of just not much on that night too, but elsewhere they had the memorable moments. They had 2 great, really good WrestleMania main events, and it was memorable because it was the first show in front of fans out of COVID. So yeah,
and it doesn't have a top 50 match either, though. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kevin, I want to make this point. Actually, no, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Kevin, my next honorable mention. You ready for this one?
Yep.
I've got 26. WrestleMania 26.
Okay.
I thought this match or this show, the main event, Shawn and Taker. I think that was an all-time great a very underrated WrestleMania main event.
Yes.
One of the most underrated of all time because obviously the year before they had the best match ever, and this match was still in its own right exceptional and really good. I enjoyed Jericho and Edge for the World Heavyweight title. I like that. Cena and Batista, enjoyable WWE title match. And really where the show falls down is pretty much the undercard. There's a lot of just there, which is once again what stops these shows, which are honorable mentions, from being top 10. Because this show had a top 50 all-time match with Taker and Shawn in the Streak vs. Career. It had that. It had memorable moments across the board. I mean, the Hart family abusing Vince 13 years after the screw job. I thought Ray and CM Punk was done well on the undercard, but a nearly 20-minute Triple H and Sheamus match, Jack Swagger winning Money in the Bank, Show Miz in the opener, stuff like that. I thought that was just it cost the show from being top 10. Because the main event for this was exceptional. The theme song was great. The stage was one of the best WrestleMania stages, like there was in Arizona. But yeah, it fell off because of the undercard.
Can I read the card to you?
Go for it.
So the opening match of this show, this is the showcase of the Immortals. 5 years prior to this match, Eddie and Rey Mysterio had arguably the greatest opening match in WrestleMania history. 16 years prior to this, Bret and Owen had arguably the greatest opening match in WrestleMania history. This show just pissed all over the legacy of great opening WrestleMania main events. We had Show Miz. The show opened with Show Miz. For those of you who don't know, that was the Big Show and the Miz as a tag team. You can't figure it out. They defeated John Morrison and R-Truth for the tag team championships. But yeah, that's your opening match on this card. Then you have Randy Orton, absolute apex bald penis Randy Orton, PG era Randy Orton, facing Cody Rhodes in a diaper and Ted DiBiase Jr. in a triple threat match that nobody was asking for. I was watching at the time. Nobody was asking for this. We had... could this be... Am I wrong for saying this is the most underwhelming Money in the Bank ladder match that took place at WrestleMania?
Easily. And there were 10 wrestlers in it. There was too many wrestlers and Jack Swagger won. It was nonsense.
Yeah, listen to the participants that took place. We're going to talk about some good Money in the Bank ladder matches soon. Listen to the participants in this one. Jack Swagger, Christian, Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, Evan Bourne, Kane, Kofi Kingston, Matt Hardy, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin. Yeah, not exactly an all-star team. Then you follow that up with Triple H and Sheamus having a 16-minute match for what reason, I don't know. And Rey Mysterio versus Punk. If Mysterio lost, he'd have to join the Straight Edge Society and unmask. Yeah, then we had Bret Hart versus Mr. McMahon, Jericho versus Edge. Then we had an empowering 10 Divas tag team match that went 3 minutes and 20 seconds. We had Edge's wife in there, The Miz's wife, Undertaker's wife, Eddie Guerrero's wife, Gail Kim, Kelly Kelly, Mickey James, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Then this is where it steps up. This is like a great 1-2 punch. If we're talking like co-main event and main event.
Yeah.
But the problem is though, John Cena Batista happened 2 years too late.
Correct.
That should have been the WWE title match at WrestleMania 28 or 29. I mean,
not
28. Not 28.
24.
Not 28. 2008 or 2009 is what I meant to say. But yeah, 24 or 25. Either one of those would have been exceptional, but it really should have been the WWE title match at WrestleMania 24. Like how those two guys never faced off until 2010 in a big program doesn't make sense to me. Those are the two faces of the company in the Ruthless Aggression era. Yeah. And then Undertaker and Shawn main evented. Yeah, top 50 match all time. No debate there.
Yeah.
Yeah, please continue with your list, pal.
Yep. My next honorable mention, I got WrestleMania 22 as my next honorable mention. This show just does not have a top 50 match of all time. The best match on this show is Shawn versus Mr. McMahon and no holds barred, or you could say Edge versus Mick Foley in the hardcore match.
Edge versus Mick Foley is a top 50 match of all time, pal.
No, it's not.
It definitely is. All right, but we're gonna get to that. We'll table
Kevin, this has the moment of Mick Foley being speared through the fire. Awesome. An all-time great moment, but that's not a top 50 match of all time.
We're going to table that discussion, pal. We'll table it.
For goodness sake. Okay, we'll carry this on later, and then the main event was just an okay match with Cena, the top babyface, getting booed out of the building. Not an instant classic. But I've got to show respect to the event itself. It was a pretty good WrestleMania, just all up as a show. So it comes in as an honorable mention for me. And then Kevin, lastly, I've got WrestleMania 30 as an honorable mention. I like too much about this show to not have it as an honorable mention. But that said, it is the most disappointing WrestleMania of all time with what they had available. This show should have been the Shield versus the Wyatt family, Cena versus the Undertaker, Batista versus Brock Lesnar, and the Yes Movement paying off, in a different type of way. And they could have done so much more, but nonetheless, it was still good. The opening segment was great. Triple H versus Daniel Bryan was great. I love the video packages of Monster and the Cena Bray Wyatt one, and then Daniel Bryan's moments are a great, memorable WrestleMania moment. and then the streak breaking, obviously. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this show that just was not great. The actual Undertaker Brock Lesnar match was just bad. The Cena Bray Wyatt match wasn't great, and the wrong guy went over. The Shield match was not great. Cesaro won the Battle Royal, which was cool, but that's about it. And then there was a really empowering Vicky Guerrero Divas Invitational, which AJ won. So yeah, a lot of not great, but just because of how the significance of the show and what happened on it, I have to put an honorable mention. I feel like, but yeah, there you go.
I love it. All right, pal. So to recap, you have 31, right? You have 20. Was it 26?
Yep.
And then you had, obviously WrestleMania 30, 22, and what was the fifth one?
37. Which
37. Right.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Okay. So we have one honorable mention that is same. We both had 31. Interesting.
Yeah.
You had, there's a couple that I have in my top 10 that you mentioned in your honorable mention. So this should be interesting. I think I value 5 and 6 a little bit more than you do. I value the nostalgia, the 80s characters, just a little bit higher, which is nothing wrong with that, because you have, I would say 5 and 6 are both significantly better than 37. Yeah.
Well, they're very different. They are, because obviously they're done 30 years apart, so they're apples and oranges.
Right.
Personally, I find, and you'll notice this with the list I have for the next 10. The early WrestleManias weren't my personal cup of tea. I know some people listening to this may hate that, and they may think 5 of the best 10 WrestleManias of all time happened in the first decade of the event. But to me, I wasn't a big fan. I've gone back and watched those shows thanks to the network, and it's just, they're not cup of tea for me, but it's just personal preference. Let's roll on.
Yeah, give us your honorable mentions again one more time.
Yep. So just to clarify, this is just in the order of chronological when they happened. WrestleMania 22, 26, 30, 31, and 37. Okay.
Yeah, so I have 5 and 6 over 3 of those WrestleManias, which is, I don't know. Maybe I have one of those higher than they should be, but I think the memorable moments and with Hogan involved and the big feuds, and that was at a point when wrestling was being viewed by like 30 million people on TV with Saturday Night's Main Event. It was a different era, and it was a different time, like you said. All right, so let's get to it, pal.
Yeah.
All right, so I have at number 10, I have WrestleMania 28.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I was contemplating not even putting this on my list at all. But then I went back and I thought about it. And for all the criteria that you and I came up with, it must have a top 50 match of all time. It does. Triple H and Taker. Easy top 50 match of all time. And if anybody wants to debate that, I'm not going to listen to you. If you can tell me that that's not a top 50 match of all time, I don't want to hear it. Nonsense. That is undoubtedly... that match, I really can't put it into words watching that live. Being just a wrestling fan for so many years and loving Triple H, loving Undertaker, loving the whole era they came from, and just kind of watching it all go away. Shawn was already retired. He's a special guest referee. And then we all know, the drama, the storytelling. That match is storytelling personified. If I want to show someone the absolute apex of storytelling in pro wrestling, I'm going to show them that match. Beautiful. Then then you had memorable moments out the wazoo. The whole promo package of The Rock and Cena Once in a Lifetime. The Rock and Cena Stare Down. Just about everything about that match. It was big box office. It was Hollywood. Could we count buy rate as one of our criteria too for a top 10 WrestleMania?
I think that's a little superficial. It shows how interested and invested people were for the show. Yeah,
this is the biggest, greatest buy rate in the history of any WrestleMania. It did 1.2 million buys?
1.217 specifically.
Yeah. It wasn't easily the best, but it was the best. I think just about every WrestleMania we have in here did well over, or did at least, aside from WrestleMania 19, a million buys, but that's not important. Yeah. So just memorable moments. Sheamus beating Daniel Bryan in shocking fashions in 18 seconds. I think that's memorable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it fits every criteria, so I had to put it in there.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I can't say I love this show. My ranking's higher for this show, which we'll get to. I just think like I look at the structure of this show. They open with the shocking opening world title match, and really the whole undercard. Like if you read the card out match by match, like okay, Kane versus Randy Orton, Big Show, Cody Rhodes, Kelly and Maria Menounos versus Beth Phoenix and Eve. Is it the most must see undercard on paper? No, but that only takes up like 45 minutes of the show, and it goes by really quickly when you watch it. And plus, there's that shocking opening match, and then you get to Triple H and The Undertaker, which once they do the match, the entrances, the video package, the post match, that's an hour of this show. And then the main event, that gets about an hour of the show as well, with entrances, video package, a 30-minute match. Jericho and CM Punk gets about 40 minutes of the show all up. So that's nearly 3 hours of the event out of the 4 hours is just great stuff. So I love this show, and we'll get to my ranking later.
There you go. What do you have at number 10?
Number 10, I got WrestleMania 14. And the reason this wasn't higher was because it doesn't really meet our criteria very well. As you alluded to earlier, there isn't really like a top 50 all-time match you need to go back and see. There were some memorable moments, some really good ones. Austin, mainly the coronation of him. I love the stuff with I believe it was the garbage match, the one with Foley in it. I thought that was great. But just generally, when you watch this show, it's a significant event. It's more so about what it really meant for wrestling at the time. Like this was when WWE was making the big shift in the war and momentum was going their way. It was the coronation of Steve Austin. And just this show to me is here because it's an easy show to watch. It doesn't really meet the criteria, as I said, in the match sense, but it was just a good WrestleMania, I felt.
Yeah, I agree. It was good. Yeah, it was good. I had it at like number 11 or number 12 for me. So it's definitely worthy of being there. But just to close the bow or whatever you want to call it, put a tie on WrestleMania 28. It's like a top 5 WrestleMania that I would show to my friends and family. It's one that I would like. Yeah, I would be like, hey, if I want to show someone what wrestling is, you want them to see Cena, Rock, and Undertaker versus Triple H. Really, what hurts this show for me, why I have it at 10 and not higher, is the overall card. The overall card was pretty weak, but it was top heavy. Those 3 big marquee matches delivered in every way possible.
Yeah,
but the undercard was just super overwhelming, and it could that could turn some people off. Like if you're showing people that are not big wrestling fans and they have to sit through like Big Show versus Cody Rhodes with Cody crying about how he's never won a WrestleMania match. And
okay, can I stop you there? I'm sorry. Like I understand what you're trying to say, but like the undercard, you open the show, it's the World Heavyweight title match, and it's just this shocking squash. So that happens. And then you have Kane and Randy Orton, 2 guys who like everyone knows. It's Randy Orton, he's like famous, and Kane's a big star in his own right. They have a match. And then Big Show and Cody Rhodes. It's the IC title. It's 5 minutes. They don't drag that out for 15. If they did, Kevin, I'd 100% agree. If it was a modern AEW Cody Rhodes story with a 20-minute match of him crying, I get it. But it was a harmless 5-minute match where Big Show got his WrestleMania moment. And I'd say people know Big Show. He's a massive giant. And then, the women's match was, I can't defend that. That was garbage. But everything else was great, I thought. And also, the Laurinaitis Teddy Long thing I didn't like, but that was about it.
Right, I'm just speaking from personal experience. Like, my parents, they bought the show for me on pay-per-view because I was like, hey, we have to watch this. It's Cena vs. Rock. Yeah. And, like, by the time Big Show and Cody Rhodes are coming out, they were, like, regretting spending whatever it was, $60 on this show. Yeah. They're like, why did you talk us into buying this? Like, the show sucks. But then, like, they were into it, like everybody else after Undertaker and Triple H. Yeah. So at 9 for me, I have WrestleMania 3.
Okay.
It has, if you forget a top 50 match of all time, it just has arguably a top 5 wrestling match of all time in Macho Man Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat. This match is like straight from 2007, and it took place in the 1980s, in the mid 80s. It's a match that's way ahead of its time, arguably the most influential wrestling match of all time. You know, this got people like Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels, not Shawn Michaels, well, I guess it influenced his style, but it got people like Chris Jericho into wanting to wrestle. And it was a moment in time that, it was, at the time it wasn't appreciated as big as Hogan and Andre was, but 35 years later, everybody looks at Savage Steamboat and they put it on the same level as Hogan Andre.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, Hogan Andre, that match is maybe the most important wrestling match in history. Without that match and without the success of the show, do we even have a WrestleMania 39 to talk about in a couple of weeks? I don't know. This match did so much for everyone involved. Hulk Hogan with the body slam with Andre. That's one of the 3 most memorable moments in wrestling history. Just something that's going to be replayed over and over again at the beginning of shows. People will glorify that moment. It's incredible. It was truly incredible to go back and watch it. And obviously, neither one of us were around watching it live.
Yeah.
But you go back and you watch like what wrestling was, where people weren't really sure that it was fake. Like they kind of had an idea, but nobody really knew. It wasn't like wrestling nowadays, where everybody knows it's not real and it's just gymnastics. Like people thought Hogan and Andre really hated each other, and like nobody knew at the time that Andre helped Hogan lift him up. Like, it was everybody's like, oh my god, this is the most incredible thing ever. Yeah. And with this WrestleMania, like it's not the great top to bottom card of some of the other WrestleManias we're going to talk about, which is why I have it at 9.
Yeah.
But the main event and that match with Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage are enough to propel this over just about any other WrestleMania that ever took place.
Yeah, I have much the same sentiment. I'll just say I have this at 8 for WrestleMania 3. And for basically the same reasons you give it, the historical significance of the main event and Steamboat Savage alone makes up for the fact the rest of the show was very non-eventful. There's just a lot of not much elsewhere, but those 2 things alone and the moments that they provided and the significance to wrestling, it'd be totally disrespectful to not have this top 10 because those 2 things alone were just incredible. So I have that at 8. So
can I speak just memorable moments?
Yep.
From this match or from the show? I mean,
yep.
Junkyard Dog having to bow down and kiss Harley Race's feet. That ages interestingly if you go back and watch this 35 years in the future.
Yeah.
Just look back at it, it's like, interesting. Maybe they should have done that one. But yeah, then you had Roddy Piper with blackface. Was that this show? I think Roddy Piper.
That was WrestleMania. Was that 3 or 6?
Let me see. I'm gonna look it up right now because I want to make sure I'm correct.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't want to get that one wrong.
Yeah, we don't want to. It's WrestleMania 6.
WrestleMania 6. Okay, so never mind. But yeah, Roddy Piper. This was supposed to be his retirement match too. He ended up coming back and obviously doing some other stuff, but this was his original retirement match. Yeah, there was some cool stuff on the card. It's not one that like is easy to sit through per se, but I mean, you're gonna want to show your friends and family Hogan body slamming Andre and Steamboat Savage. That's just they're incredible. Then the characters. I mean, like Honky Tonk Man, Jake Roberts, Iron Sheik, and Nikolai Volkov. This is ridiculous. Some of the characters that we had back at that time. Nikolai Volkov being like a Soviet Union enthusiast. Iron Sheik, this Middle Eastern man that pretended like he didn't speak any English, coming out putting people in the camel clutch. Like if this guy had decided to break Hulk Hogan's leg, there would be no WWE, pal. This
That's
is
fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
the nostalgia, the 80s characters, the cartoon of it all.
Yeah.
All right, pal. Number 8. Go ahead.
Kevin, sorry, can I do my number 9 first?
Yes, please. I'm sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
No, so for me, I put number 9. I've got WrestleMania 20. This one, it's really.
Wow.
I found this really hard to assess. I really did because of Benoit and the ending.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel right putting this top 5. I feel like from the talent perspective on this show, it is incredible. You look at this card top to bottom, the names, the star power, like the matches. I mean, Benoit and Angle for the WWE title. You had Goldberg versus Brock, which is infamous for its own reasons. Evolution versus the Rock and Sock Connection just happened like 3rd, 4th on the card. Jericho versus Christian, Cena, Big Show, Undertaker, Kane. You go up and down the card. I mean, like the women's matches were both entertaining for their own reasons. The tags, so like a great show, but because of the ending and the stuff with Benoit, I just don't feel right putting it top 5. But I feel like it needs to be top 10. There's just too much great on this show. Don't have a top 10.
Now to look at this objectively for a moment, I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
Does this show have a top 50 match of all time?
Main event.
You would put the main event in that category?
Yes. The main event was damn good. Like, obviously, because of what happened, it gets looked on different light, but this main event was phenomenal. It was a 30-minute classic involving Mr. WrestleMania, prime Triple H and Benoit. Like, it was a phenomenal match.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And it has memorable moments too. The return of Dead Man Taker. You know, the big moment at the end with Benoit and Eddie hugging, both as champions. These are two guys that worked their entire life to make it where they are. They finally became the biggest baby faces in the company. You know, the whole Eddie and Angle match, like the ending to that match with the with like Angle pulling off Eddie's boot and Eddie barely winning.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And then of course, you know, you got Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar. Arguably one of the top 5 most infamous wrestling match ever.
Yeah.
Like it was so bad. It created this culture that we see now where fans try to hijack the show.
Oh,
And yeah, I mean, just it has a lot. I wanted to put this in my top 10. I just couldn't. You would think for me I would, with Eddie being so significant here, and Eddie versus Kurt Angle. But I look at this show. Honestly, I look at it and I'm like, this is a 2-match show. You know, but the 2 matches were not as significant as like WrestleMania 28. Like I look at this one and WrestleMania 28 very similarly, and WrestleMania 3. These are 2-match shows essentially. But 28 for me, I enjoyed Jericho and Punk more than anything aside from Eddie and Angle in the main event on WrestleMania 20.
Right. Okay.
So I guess that would be why I barely didn't make the list.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I just think WrestleMania 20's variety is exceptional. This had something of everything. Like I love the fact that, as you mentioned, was one of these criteria for as far as showing your friends and that sort of thing, showing someone. This had a bit of everything. You had your Cena match at the start, but then it's the big show. You had the Jericho and Christian storyline, Evolution versus the Rock and Stop connection, all the star power there, Goldberg and Brock. You had that, Eddie and Angle, just a great wrestling match for the title. The big main event. I mean, Undertaker's return versus Kane. The women's matches, one was where Molly Holly got a head shave. The other one was a Playboy evening gown match. It was a Cruiserweight Open.
Great work,
tag title matches were both really good. Like, it just had variety. It's something for everyone, which I think for WrestleMania is something you need. So,
but the opener was actually Cena and Big Show. And this one is like, if you show this to somebody who only knows the John Cena from like 2012, 2013, 2011, that was like getting booed out of the building by 40-year-old men, and you show someone this match, they'd be like, wait. Everybody loves John Cena in Madison Square Garden at WrestleMania?
Yeah.
John Cena, like, he's literally the most over guy in the show. Go back and watch it. He's more over than anybody else. More than Eddie, more than Benoit, more than Shawn, Triple H. Everybody loves Cena. Cena picks up the Big Show. It was like a baby moment of like Andre and Hogan. Hogan slamming Andre. It was like the baby version of that.
Yeah.
It was exceptional. I mean, you have it 9th. I have it 12th. We're not that far off. It's a great WrestleMania. Just for me, I can't but go back and like I can't sit through some of the stuff on the undercard. I've actually tried to go back and watch this WrestleMania recently.
Right.
And I couldn't do it. I was like, oh man, I gotta fast forward to Goldberg and Brock.
Really? Damn.
Yeah, like I watched the opener. I couldn't sit through anything else. I watched the Rock promo. It was pretty good, but other than that, I couldn't sit through it.
Okay. Yeah. Fair. Well, Ken, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is WrestleMania 22.
Okay.
This show, I think a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with this show. Like, I see some people that are like, oh, this is top 5, certified top 5 WrestleMania all time. Then I see people that are like, oh, it's barely top 15, not even top 15. So there's not a lot of in-between on this one. There was a legendary Money in the Bank ladder match. I thought this Money in the Bank ladder match was fantastic. You got 60-year-old Ric Flair in there taking superplexes off the top of the ladder. Like if we had Jim Ross hammering home that he had a broken back 35 years ago. Oh, it was fantastic.
So what was worse? So just real quick one. What was worse? That with Ric Flair, where he's like 60 years old with a crippling back injury and everything that comes with that in the Money in the Bank match, or Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 31 coming off literal CTE and head contusions, wrestling in the ladder match. Like
by far, Daniel Bryan. By far.
Yeah.
But watching Daniel Bryan headbutt Nick Nemeth on the top of a ladder in California. Like, bro, what? Like, the air is not good over there. First of all, be that high off the ground, cause that much trauma to your head. Like, never mind. I don't want to get into the science of it all.
Carry on. You're explaining WrestleMania 22. Carry on.
Yeah, I really liked the Money in the Bank ladder match. Absolutely memorable. Some memorable stuff in there. RVD winning was cool. You know, people were super into him. This show took place in Detroit. Right, Chicago.
It was Chicago, because Punk came out on the gang car.
Ah, yes, Detroit was the year following.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was like the last WrestleMania before we got the big WrestleMania stadium shows. This was just casually in like a basketball arena in Chicago, and the atmosphere was great. It helped it. The atmosphere was fantastic. Then you have a legendary match. You have two legendary matches, in my opinion. Edge versus Mick Foley, and the main event, John Cena versus Triple H. And I know you disagree.
Yeah.
But I would put at least one of those matches in the top 50. I'm not sure which one I would put in the top 50.
Put Edge Foley. Cena Triple H categorically just is not. But Edge and Foley, I'll hear an argument for.
They're both significant for the wrestling business. Mick Foley created Edge, the main eventer Edge that we see. Mick Foley is his daddy, pal. This was the moment that took Edge from that upper mid-card hell, that purgatory he had been in since he broke up from Edge and Christian, and made him a certified main eventer. And the main event, Cena Triple H, that took Cena as like, okay, this guy, he's kind of a joke of a champion. You know, can we get someone else with the belt? Like, just have Triple H win it. I'd rather have a reign of terror than watch Cena be champion. And then Triple H made Cena into that guy. He solidified him as a top star, as a mainstream icon of the wrestling business that night. He did the job, pal. Something he would not do for Booker T.
Wow.
I digress.
Yeah.
And then you have Rey Mysterio winning the World Heavyweight Championship. Memorable moment. I don't think anyone's going to dispute that. Yeah. Shawn versus Mr. McMahon. Full of memorable moments. Oh, like, how ridiculous was that? Mr. McMahon with, like, the magazine cover for Muscle and Fitness. And Shawn hitting him with the magazine cover. Like, bro, I love that match. I'm sorry. Mr. McMahon puts on bangers at WrestleMania. He just does. He's a great in-ring technician, pal. Now, the problem with this show, well, I don't have it higher. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I had a great women's feud and a women's match with Mickie James and Trish Stratus. This is one of the best women's matches in WrestleMania history. And best women's storylines leading up to WrestleMania. Such a good storyline. Mickie James playing the crazy, obsessed fan of Trish Stratus. And doing the whole thing where, like, Mickey's, like, stalking her in the shower. Good stuff, pal. Lots of great work rate involved. Good storytelling. Yeah, it was just different. Now, the problem I have with this show is the Undertaker's match. Like, really? Undertaker versus Mark Henry? And that's the best we got for prime Undertaker? Like, why did Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, and Randy Orton have to be a triple threat? Why couldn't Kurt Angle face the Undertaker?
I know, right?
You know, just throwing that one out there. But for me, I have this show so high because of the flow and its watchability. For me, it's just an easy to watch show. I could put this on right now and sit through the entire show without a problem. I like just about everything on the card. Yeah. And then Boogeyman and Booker T was another stain. It was, like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah. All right, pal. Let me hear what you have to say.
I think, like, 8's fair. I think, the flow I'll give you, like, this show does flow quite well. JR was excellent on commentary, and I like the arena just worked. The fact that they held it in the Rosemont Horizon in front of, like, 18,000 people, wherever it was, it worked. And the atmosphere worked, and then, I really enjoyed the flow of the show. That was really my main takeaway from when I watched this, like, a year ago. I last watched this show. And obviously I've made my opinions known with the main event. We've had our battles over that. I don't feel the need to rehash that. Personally, I just think it was the Reigns Triple H WrestleMania 32 main event, but just 10 years prior, and because of the Ruthless Aggression era, it had more fanfare. Edge and Foley was legendary in its own right.
Can I stop you just for a second?
Yep.
One day you and I are going to do a separate segment. I don't think it's worth the whole podcast, but we're going to debate that point that you make, because you said it before about comparing this match, Triple H and Cena, to Triple H and Reigns. We're gonna debate that, and I'm gonna debunk your opinion, pal.
Oh, pal, the Triple H, the star of days gone by, with the big name and the legacies, taking on the babyface champion who's getting booed if people don't want to see anymore. What will happen? Oh,
Yeah, we're gonna debunk it. I'm gonna debunk it, pal. I'm gonna do this, pal, for all of the real wrestling fans.
Okay. But anyway, so yeah, I think you putting this show at 8, it's fair. I'm not outraged at all. I think it's reasonable. The show's flow is great. So, Kevin, do you want to move on to my number 7?
And your number 8.
I gave my number 8.
Oh, you did. Yes, you did. You had WrestleMania 3 at number 8. Let me just say this real quick before we move on. There's 11 matches on this card, not including the pre-show. 11 matches on the main card. 6 of them were good. How many WrestleManias can say that? Not a lot.
Good take.
Not a lot.
Good take.
That's over 50% of the matches were good. And some people even say JBL versus Benoit was a good match. I'm not even including that one. So you can say there were 7 good matches on this card. Food for thought. Yeah. Give us your number 7, pal.
Number 7, I got WrestleMania 23.
Oh, I have that in number 7 too.
Hey, we agree. W.
Look at that.
Yeah, no, I just think this show. I mean, this has the moments, and I'll try to bounce past you in a second. You can just rattle off all the moments, but I just thought as a show, once again, we talk about flow with 22 here. This show flowed really well. WrestleMania 23. It had the big stars wrestling really good big matches. Undertaker Batista, I love that match for the world title. I thought it was excellent.
Me too.
Some people think it's okay. I really enjoyed it. Cena Shawn in the main event, 30 minutes. Shawn Michaels, Mr. WrestleMania, putting over Cena. I thought that was great. I really enjoyed as well the Money in the Bank match. I thought that was one of the best Money in the Banks ever. I just love that match. So yeah, that's your 3 kind of pillar cornerstone matches, and not to mention Donald Trump and Vince and the battle of the billionaires.
I was gonna say you didn't even mention that was the biggest build for on this show.
No, that was like that was more so. That was big for its own reason. That wasn't big because, oh my God, Lashley and Umaga are going to have a classic. It was big because of the celebrities involved. So, yeah, that match was just fun. It's a different match. It's one unlike pretty much anything in wrestling history, and it's great to watch. So, yeah, to me, 23 sits at 7, and yeah, I'll pass to you.
Yeah, and this is the second most purchased WrestleMania. This did a flat 1.2. So it's narrowly behind WrestleMania 28 for the second most bought pay-per-view, and for good reason. This show was built around Vince McMahon and Donald Trump. Like, yeah, the match was Bobby Lashley versus Umaga, but this was really about Vince versus Trump. And this was like, I can't put it into words for people who weren't there, who didn't experience it live. Everybody knows how important Donald Trump is. Like, of course, he was president of the United States a few years ago. Like, it's the president of the United States at WrestleMania. And we're having a hair versus hair match. As ridiculous as it was in the build, because it was ridiculous, seeing a billionaire and Donald Trump coming out, Vince McMahon, they're screaming at each other. You got these 0.1 percenters just going at it. It's ridiculous and over the top, but it's what wrestling is about. This one is in my top 5 of WrestleManias that I would show to my friends and family. It has a great flow. Memorable moments. The image of Vince getting his head shaved. That's one of the most memorable moments in wrestling history. Just the fact that Trump had a WrestleMania entrance, the moment of Trump tackling Vince and punching him, super memorable. You know, aside from that, there's not a ton of great WrestleMania moments on this one, but you know, we could get to 5. You know, you got like Cena, Shawn Michaels, Cena getting booed out of the building by this stadium crowd. That's another thing. This was the first stadium WrestleMania in how long? Since like Hogan Andre, or since WrestleMania 6?
WrestleMania 19. Since 19.
19. Okay. Oh, right. They put it in the baseball stadium. That's right. I forgot about that. I guess that counts. But this was the introduction to the big football stadiums that we've now become accustomed to. This was the first WrestleMania that felt like a Super Bowl. That felt like larger than life. In respect of like to the visual of the big fireworks, the big football stadium, and so on and so forth. You already
Yeah.
spoke about the Money in the Bank ladder match. It was fantastic. One of the best Money in the Bank ladder matches. Yeah, Jeff Hardy involved. You had Randy Orton, Matt Hardy, Edge. Crazy moment. That's another crazy moment. Jeff Hardy nearly killed Edge in this match. And that was the opener of the show. We nearly saw a death on the live pay-per-view. That was bad. You know what I'm talking about, right? Where Jeff Hardy just does the leg drop through the ladder. Edge literally was taken out. Literally, he was legitimately taken out from the match. I don't even know if he even came back after that. But yeah, at top 10 WrestleMania. I think a lot of people would argue that this could be higher. Yeah, but this one is in my Mount Rushmore discussion. I think this is where the Mount Rushmore of WrestleMania for me starts with WrestleMania 23 at top 7.
Yep. No, that's fair. That's fair. I agree with everything you said there, and yeah, I'm happy you put more onus on the Battle of the Billionaires. I figured that'd be a better kind of conversation point for you, who kind of lived it. But yeah, no, even just watching it back, I didn't grow up experiencing that build, but just the way they presented that was just fantastic.
Oh yeah, and Stone Cold was there.
Yeah.
Like, on top of that, just casually, Stone Cold Steve Austin's there. And this was a big spot for Bobby Lashley. Like, Vince really wanted Bobby Lashley to be a star. He put Bobby Lashley in one of the most important matches ever. Had him wrestling on Donald Trump's behalf. And then Bobby Lashley left like 3 months later, for whatever reason.
Literally.
Yeah.
Okay, pal. Are you ready for my number 6?
Hit us with it.
I've got WrestleMania 10
Okay.
here.
Okay.
For me, this show has 2 of the top, I'll say 20 matches of all time on it.
Mhm.
And because of
agree.
that, I can't put it below where I've put it here. Owen and Brett in the opener is just best WrestleMania opening match ever. It sets the show off on such a great tone and great foot. The ring work of this, like, you can just tell these guys like grew up wrestling each other, and like that's how they learn how to wrestle. Like it was like a flawless match in the sense of like the flow, the technicalities of wrestling, and the psychology, all that sort of stuff. The online fraternity love. This match was perfect in that regard. Just, I can't put it over enough. Just an excellent all-time opener, best opener ever for WrestleMania. And then the Razor Ramon Shawn Michaels ladder match, once again, set the tone for the next 20, 30 years in its own regard. The creativity, how these guys use the ladder, the wrestlers involved, Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels. Like, that was brilliant in its own right. So I look at those matches. Yes, what happened in between, not great. And the fact that we had a bunch of not great filler in between, and the ending was okay for the main event, that's what stops this from being a top 5 show, a top 5 WrestleMania, in my opinion. I just can't put it in the top 5 with some of this just rubbish that was on the show. And the fact that we had Yokozuna wrestling twice, Lex Luger, there was DQs, there was interference of Jim Cornette, there was a lot of referees everywhere. There's a lot of nonsense elsewhere, but the sheer argument for this is Owen versus Brett, Razor versus Shawn, 2 all-time top 15, top 20 matches. That's your case right there.
Yeah, in terms of quality of matches that are on a WrestleMania, I don't think any other WrestleMania, I may be wrong, but I don't think any other WrestleMania has 2 top 15 matches of all time on it. I'm thinking. No, I don't think so. Right, am I correct?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you one that has 2. Like a lot of WrestleManias have 1.
Right.
Having 2 is unheard of, and that's what WrestleMania 10 has. So
yeah, I mean, this one is again similar to like a 28 or like a WrestleMania 20, where the 2 like big time main event matches, Bret Owen. I know it opened the show, but that was a 20-minute match. That was longer than any match on the card.
Yeah.
These 2 big, like the 2 big cornerstone matches, Owen, Brett, Razor, Shawn, carried the show, similar to like Triple H and Taker and Cena Rock did at 28. But Cena and Rock and Triple H and Taker, as good as those matches were, they don't hold a candle to Owen and Brett and Razor and Shawn. With all due respect. Owen and Brett, like you said, perfectly. Greatest opening match ever. And it's close. You know, Triple H and Daniel Bryan's in the conversation, Eddie and Ray's in the conversation. it's not like a by far greatest opening match, but yeah, it's still pretty good. I've gone back and I can watch this show. I had this at number 4, just for the record.
Right.
I could go back and I could watch this show from top to bottom, and I could sit through like some of the ridiculousness.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can, but I just can. I liked Randy Savage and Crush for whatever reason. It was a fun Falls Count Anywhere match. I think that just speaks to how great Randy Savage is and was. For whatever reason, I liked the Yokozuna and Jim Cornette stuff, and with Mr. Perfect as the guest referee. It was fun. It's just fun. We don't see a lot of fun stuff like that. That kind of stuff that they're doing in that match with Yoko and Lex Luger would not fly today by any means necessary. People would be freaking out. That's like imagine if Roman Reigns wrestled, I don't know, Omos at WrestleMania in the middle of the card for the WWE Championship.
Yeah.
And he had like Paul Heyman beating up Omos's lackey, whoever that is. Like, you had Paul Heyman out there with a golf club hitting, I don't even know, like
MVP or whoever.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it would not fly. People would be going crazy over that, you know? So I enjoy stuff like that. It reminds you that wrestling is fake and it's for kids and it's supposed to be fun. You know, not everything's so damn serious. That's kind of what I get the vibe watching the show.
Yeah.
When you talk about influence, Macho Man versus Ricky Steamboat is arguably the most influential match of all time. Razor and Shawn for WrestleMania 10, this latter match is right there on a short list of most influential wrestling matches ever. If you ask just about anybody in the wrestling business now, they'll probably tell you that this match influenced them in some way, shape, or form. You ask like a Seth Rollins, Ricochet, you know, whoever on the roster, Johnny Gargano, chances are they were heavily influenced by this match. And I think it's the significance and the influence of this show, and just the overall enjoyability I have is why I have it on my Mount Rushmore in my top 4.
That's totally fair enough. And unless you want to say anything else about that, Kevin, what's your number 6?
So I have WrestleMania 24 at number
Okay.
6.
For the record, I have this at 5. So this is my next one. So yeah, go on, Kevin. Go on.
This is good. This is good. I like this. You talk about memorable moments. This WrestleMania has it in droves. I mean, it doesn't get any more memorable than Ric Flair's last match. The crying, the celebrating with his children, with his late son Reed. The Shawn Michaels, the I'm sorry, I love you. And I know he came back and he wrestled in TNA. Whatever, who cares? He never wrestled in WWE again, and hopefully he doesn't ever. And we know he had his last match last year in a disgusting promotional tactic, but I digress. Shawn Michaels or Ric Flair, I'd probably say is a top 25, top 30 match of all time. I've seen it live. I was lucky enough to be in the building for this whole show. It was absolutely fantastic. The one real blemish on this show is the fact that Jeff Hardy cannot stay away from the needle, pal. Jeff Hardy was supposed to win the Money in the Bank, but we ended up with CM Punk, who just wasn't ready yet to be in the main event scene. He wins it, and we know what happened with CM Punk and his cash in, his title reign. We don't have to talk about that. I think if you flip it and you have Jeff Hardy win this Money in the Bank, who knows? Maybe that makes this WrestleMania that much better in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
Kane and Chavo Guerrero, 11-second match for the ECW title. What is that, bro? Whatever. It is what it is. A Playboy Bunny Mania Lumberjill match. Like what? You got Edge's wife and John Morris's ex-wife versus Maria and Ashley. I hated the triple threat match. Randy Orton, Triple H, and Cena. Like you and I spoke about, Cena and Batista should have been the WWE title match that year. Instead, we had Batista versus Umaga in a battle of brand supremacy, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah.
But then you get another memorable moment. You get Floyd Money Mayweather making a grand entrance. Literally, $100 Mayweather bills are falling from the sky. I have one somewhere in my house, a $100 bill with Floyd Mayweather's face on it. He's marching down to the ring to face the Big Show. It doesn't get any more Hollywood than that. You got arguably at the time the biggest combat sports athlete in the world, most famous, most well-known, biggest box office attraction. Floyd Money Mayweather out there facing the Big Show. This was big, and this was a heavily promoted match for obvious reasons. This one was, probably the most promoted match going in, I would say, and it delivered. I thought it was fun. Floyd Mayweather beating Big Show by knockout, super memorable. And then you got the main event, Undertaker versus Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship. This one I think kind of gets lost in the shuffle, similar to the WrestleMania 23 match with Batista from the year prior. It gets kind of lost in the shuffle in Undertaker's classic WrestleMania catalog. But this match is fantastic. Watching it live, I thought it was great. Watching it at home in the years that have passed, I watch this match regularly, every once in a while, like once a year, once every 2 years. It's a great match. And like overall, this show just flowed. It was a 9-match show. And what, 1, 2, well, you got 3, 4, 5 matches out of 9 matches were really good. And that's not counting JBL and Finlay, which was a fun match. Then you had a WWE Championship match that I didn't count either, featuring 3 of the biggest stars in the history of wrestling. There's a lot on the show to love.
Yeah, I mean, you said that so well. I just think, for me, I want to emphasize that main event. I think that's a top 5 WrestleMania main event. I feel like it's the most underrated WrestleMania main event of all time. I feel like that match never gets mentioned. Like, that personifies underrated in every sense of the word, and it was a phenomenal match. Like, Undertaker told the story about this in his Ariel Helwani interview the other day, that Edge was initially, or there was plans for Edge to break the streak, but Edge just said, like, I don't want to break the streak. Like, I respect that streak too much, and the match was just excellent. It really was. Great World Heavyweight title match. Like, Kevin, that made a match like that for the World Heavyweight title, it makes that belt so important. It just, to think what they did to that title over the coming years after this with Jack Swagger and Ziggler and awful. But yeah, no, the rest of the show, obviously you mentioned the big money match, Mayweather and Big Show. That's just, it's spectacle. You got to see it live. Everyone was invested watching it. It's just so unique. That's a WrestleMania spectacle. That happening is a WrestleMania moment in itself. So that was great. I personally enjoyed the Orton, Triple H, and Cena triple threat. When I say I enjoyed it, I'm not saying it was some great, phenomenal match, but as a match, because of the star power involved, it didn't go on too long. I enjoyed it. A bit weird. Obviously, we should have seen Cena Batista. It would have been better. But for what we saw, I can't really complain. It was enjoyable. And really, yeah, Shawn and Ric Flair speaks for itself. You were very lucky to see that live. That would have been incredible in being in the building for that. But yeah, it was just done so well. So yeah, to me, WrestleMania 24 sits at number 5. You've got number 6. I think we can both agree. One of the great WrestleManias of all time.
Absolutely. Did you give us your number 6 already?
Yeah, mine was WrestleMania 10.
Correct. All right, so what is your 5?
Because my 5 was 24. Kevin, what's your 5?
You're gonna like this.
Really?
Yeah, you're gonna like this. My number 5 WrestleMania of all time is WrestleMania 30. Any instant reaction, pal?
Why? I guess you're gonna. Sorry. Kind of before you go, I'm gonna assume it'll be because the moments. So the moment of the streak breaking and the Bryan moment at the end, and I guess Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. You're saying it's a top 50 match or something to that effect, and just generally the moments of the show and the spectacle.
Well, for me, there's a multitude of reasons why I have this in my top 5. For one, I really loved the Daniel Bryan storyline, and I really loved the culmination of the Yes Movement. I really loved the moment. At the time, I was a big Daniel Bryan fan. I still am. I still like Daniel Bryan. In hindsight, looking back at this 9 years later, I have a little bit of a different view on it. You have like Daniel Bryan, he beats Orton twice in the build-up, and then just a strip to the title.
Yep.
Like maybe they overbooked it and whatever, like it was a mess. It was a car crash of booking, but Daniel Bryan was not supposed to be here. We all know it's infamous now. CM Punk shared the match card, what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be just Batista Orton straight up for the World Heavyweight Championship. Triple H versus Punk. Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus.
Yep.
And was anything else different on the card that he shared?
No, those are the main matches. It was Cena, Bray Wyatt, and yeah. That was
right, so yeah, we were still going to get Cena, Bray Wyatt, Brock, Undertaker. And I know when you talked about this, where did you have this again? Like 13?
I had this 11.
11.
for me.
Okay, so you had this 11th. And that's still, I mean, we're not super far off. I have it 5, you have it 11.
Yeah.
Still, they're both all-time great WrestleManias.
Hmm.
You mentioned that, like, this was the biggest missed opportunity
Yes.
in WrestleMania history.
By
I
far.
personally think WrestleMania 33 is a bigger missed opportunity than
How?
WrestleMania 30. That's a discussion for a little bit later. But I'll just say, like, the Cliff Notes version, like, how do you not have Cena and AJ Styles, the WWE title? Like, you had this great build, but the card just didn't really deliver. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Okay.
Roman and Undertaker, why is that main eventing? I'm not really prepared to answer that question, but I just, WrestleMania 33,
Okay.
I could get into it later. But nevertheless, what we did get, yeah, I agree with you that WWE, they missed the boat with some things on this card, but they still put together a top 15 WrestleMania of all time, which I got to give it to them for what they put out on the card. I'm not going to hold the fact that they didn't book Batista versus Brock Lesnar or they didn't book the Shield versus the Wyatt family against them. What we did get on this card was really good. A great opening match, an all-time great WrestleMania match, an all-time great wrestling match. Undoubtedly, you're right. Daniel Bryan and Triple H for me is a top 50 wrestling match of all time.
Yep.
I think most people will agree. You know, the Shield versus Kane and the New Age Outlaws was what it was, but it didn't hurt the flow of the show. It's a 3-minute match. It was the Shield squashing old men. Is what it is. Cesaro winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal almost made that Battle Royal feel special. You know, even though we know how big of a joke it would become in the years following.
Yep.
A big moment for Cesaro. Didn't amount to anything. Cesaro still had a great career, though. But it didn't amount to him getting this big push like a lot of people thought it would. And he's the guy, he's the epitome of like, oh, this guy should be world champion. This guy has it. This guy's underrated, and that's Cesaro. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out. Cena and Bray Wyatt was fun. The storyline was fun. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it wasn't a good storyline.
Yeah.
You know, Bray Wyatt with he's got the whole world in his hands. The crowd was super into this. And looking back in hindsight, like, I'm kind of glad Cena won. How bad would this be 10 years later if Bray Wyatt had won? Just everything that we've seen Bray Wyatt do. Yeah, like, Bray Wyatt did not need to win. This was the peak of Bray Wyatt, though. This was the peak of him as a character, him as a star. I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed it. I think this is probably Bray Wyatt's best wrestling match. I don't know if I'm overspeaking, but the match was good. The streak being broken, Brock and Undertaker. Most memorable moment, maybe, in WrestleMania history?
I'd say so.
It's top 2 or 3. It's up there. It's up there with other, you know, with like Vince and Austin shaking hands, just in terms of shock value.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I would say this is the most important, and not most important, the biggest WrestleMania moment ever. Everybody watching this knows where the hell they were when they saw it went down. And then, yeah, the main event, Bryan, Batista, and Orton. I would say this is a top 10 WrestleMania main event in terms of in-ring match quality. I think it was very good. It was a mess. Like I said, it was a mess. It was a car crash build. It was all over the place. They had no clear plan, but it ended up working out. They ended up getting it right. Daniel Bryan winning. Got 80,000 people doing the yes chant. It was a crowning moment. And it's unfortunate in the aftermath, Daniel Bryan didn't really get to enjoy being WWE champion. He had a legitimate neck injury like a few weeks later. Was stripped of the belt. Didn't make his return until almost a year later.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But for what it was, I think this WrestleMania is phenomenal. And for me, rewatchability, this is easily one of the most rewatchable WrestleManias for me. The short card, 7 matches.
Yeah.
It's got a top 50 WrestleMania match. It's got, I mean, we didn't even talk about the memorable moment of Rock, Hogan, and Austin cutting that promo at the beginning of the show. And Hogan calling it the Silver Dome, Rock making fun of him. And you got, those are like the top 3 biggest stars in wrestling at the time. Biggest stars ever in pro wrestling. In the middle of the ring. Yeah, I mean, this has memorable moments out the wazoo, pal. The most memorable moment of them all is on this show. Brock and Taker. By our criteria, it has to be in the top 7, top 8. It has two of like the top 10 most memorable moments in wrestling in WrestleMania, with Daniel Bryan winning the title and the streak ending, and you throw Hogan, Austin, Rock in there. It doesn't get any bigger than that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I think I really like that rewatchability point and like showing other people, because I will say I do like this show. I know, contrary, my ranking is just outside the top 10, just more so other reasons with what this could have been. I just can never get over the fact that they could have had Cena versus Taker when they're both not in their prime, but still, it's not the 2017 or 2018 version we saw. It could have been a legitimately great Cena Taker match. Batista Brock was right there for them. The Wyatts and the Shield was right there for them. They could have done, Triple H and Randy Orton for the WWE title and had Daniel Bryan versus Shawn Michaels as like the blow-off of the year. They could have done so much stuff. There was so much available for them. But, nonetheless, we still got a great show, memorable moments out the wazoo. The stage was incredible. I love the opening with that segment with the legends. I just think.
Well, really okay, let me just interrupt you for a second.
Yep.
So if you do Batista versus Brock Lesnar,
yep,
that takes away the streak being broken, because I assume Cena's not going to be Undertaker, and the streak being broken is like part of what makes this memorable. Bryan versus Shawn, it's not really realistic. Shawn would have to want to do the match. He was retired. He clearly didn't want to do it. There was really no other way they could pay off the Yes Movement. Like, the only other way they could have paid it off was just the opening match just being the end of the storyline. But that wouldn't have hit the same. So I think if you propose, like, some of those things that you proposed off the top of your head as replacements, if you put that in, like, if you just have Daniel Bryan beat Triple H, that's the end of the Yes Movement. Yeah, Batista versus Brock, who knows? That could have been Brock Goldberg Part 2. People would have hated that.
It would have been a much better show. But the moments wouldn't have been as memorable. But the thing with the matches we got in real life, that Undertaker-Brock match was crap for 25 minutes. It was not fun to watch. And then the ending was the most shocking WrestleMania moment ever. So it's a weird, like, what we ended up getting was very odd. And then the Daniel Bryan moment was
but Batista versus Brock wouldn't have been that much better than but Brock and Undertaker in the ring.
It would have been 20 minutes shorter, and it would have been concussions involved.
That would have been people just chanting Blue Tista. They would have been booing him. I don't know. I don't think people would have been into that.
He wouldn't have been positioned to be the guy winning the WWE title from Daniel Bryan. He wouldn't be getting booed like that.
And he won the Royal Rumble. That was the thing. Like, he won the Royal Rumble and people hated him.
He's not involved with Daniel Bryan. There's nothing to do with Daniel Bryan. He's in the match against Brock for the world title.
Well, what would be your world championship match?
I'd do something, whether you want to have Daniel Bryan versus Orton, or you want to do Triple H versus Orton, or Bryan versus Triple H. I don't know. Something like that. But Batista wouldn't even, if they had.
But then Bryan versus Triple H.
I think this wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, Bryan versus Triple H for the world title, that would have been like WrestleMania 32. It would have been a past his prime Triple H just hogging the spotlight, being world champion.
Kevin, there was no doubt a better way of doing it than what they did, where Daniel Bryan beat Evolution with one arm and a crook referee in one night.
It worked out perfectly. It worked out perfectly. It was a great WrestleMania moment. Yeah, Daniel Bryan's a big star. Batista's okay. He's doing well for himself in Hollywood. Randy Orton's a big star in the wrestling world.
It's also what that did for wrestling, in the sense that, if we hijack a show, they'll give us who we want and they can win the match.
Well, how many times did we see that afterwards, though? We didn't see that a lot. I mean, if the influence of this match is as grand as you make it out to be, Sami Zayn would have won the title in Montreal a month ago.
I mean, we'll see where the Reigns storyline finishes. Maybe we'll look back and say Sami should have won in Montreal. We don't know.
Well, that would have been. The crowd would have influenced that heavily, and it would have been, to your point, like, crowd hijacks it.
Well, that was an actual storyline. That was the thing. Sami Zayn's a 9-month storyline, and that would have been the payoff. The Daniel Bryan thing was just, boo, we want Bryan. They hijacked the show to get him in.
The storyline started at SummerSlam. The authority holding Daniel Bryan back started with Triple H burying him.
And the storyline finished realistically at Hell in a Cell 2013 when Shawn Michaels super kicked him, and then Daniel Bryan went off with CM Punk feuding with the Wyatt family, and he was just out of the main event picture. Like,
Yeah, he found his way back in, pal.
Then the crowd just booed and hijacked and got him back in the main event picture. And, Batista has never come back since. Full times.
Maybe WWE looked at it. They looked at the fans' reaction. They were like, maybe we did get this one wrong. Because like Batista talked about this in an interview. Batista said that he told Vince, like, why are we doing this? Why am I going to win the Royal Rumble? And just be this big baby face that's going to challenge Randy Orton like it's 1987, like I'm Hogan in 87 or 88.
Yeah.
Like, people are not going to be into that. And he talked about how his style didn't fit the PG era.
Yeah.
On top of that. And he didn't want to steal the spotlight from Daniel Bryan. Like, Batista knew that Daniel Bryan was the biggest star in the company at that time. So, like, I think it was just a matter of WWE realizing, hey, we kind of got this wrong. I don't know if it was a matter of the fans hijacking, because we've seen before that Vince McMahon doesn't give a shit what the fans want. He doesn't.
Well,
Well,
I think it's a combination of that, where it was a fan hijack, and it was how WWE went about it on the night, with a guy who's shorter than me beating Evolution in one night with a bung arm, Stephanie McMahon, Scott Armstrong, the crook referee.
It's no different than Benoit beating Triple H and Shawn Michaels.
It's completely different. Benoit didn't wrestle twice in the same night. Benoit didn't have a bung shoulder. Benoit, like, what?
No, I'm talking about from like the spectacle of it. Daniel Bryan and Benoit roughly the same height. Batista's gigantic. Triple H is gigantic. Randy Orton and Shawn about the same size.
They're not all the same size. Randy Orton is like 5 inches taller and jacked.
Than Shawn?
Yeah. Shawn is nowhere near the size of Randy Orton. He's smaller.
Similar. I didn't say they were the same. I said similar.
Okay. Kevin, my point here, just to kind of, so we don't go on about this for an hour and a half, my whole point here is you could have had Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. I'd say you do a thing where Triple H looks at Randy Orton, like something in January or February, and goes, Bryan's beaten you like 3 times. I'm the WWE champion. They could have done something just like some storyline thing. Triple H is the WWE champion. He represents the authority. His only goal is to hold down Daniel Bryan. And Bryan just beats Triple H in a singles match, wins the title. You don't combine the WWE and World Heavyweight titles. Batista can face Brock for the big gold belt. The company can move on, and it'll be better. But that's just me.
I don't think it would have been a better show if you do it that way.
It would have been a much better show.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Like Brock ending the streak, you can't take that out of this show. You
really can. You can have Roman end the streak at 33.
Oof, man, that would have been bad.
It would have been the tribal chief, pal. That's how you set it up.
Yeah, but he wasn't the tribal chief, though, at that time.
No, he could have come out as the tribal chief the next night.
I don't know. I'm not big on the fantasy booking,
Nah, I don't know. But there you go, pal. So anything else about WrestleMania 30? I mean, we could discuss WrestleMania 30 for hours and hours, but we can just end it there and move on.
Yeah, I think we can. We can end it there.
Yep. So that's 30. So you had WrestleMania 30 at number 5. I had WrestleMania 30 around 11, 12.
Mm-hmm.
My number 4. Now, I'm pretty sure this is your number 3.
Uh-huh.
I got WrestleMania 21.
Yes, that is my number 3. You are correct, pal.
Yeah. This show, flow exceptional. Matches. I mean, the first 5 matches on this show, there's no misses at all. It's all really entertaining. The opener, I'll pass to you to discuss the opener in a minute, but just all around, some great stuff on the undercard and the start of the show. I love the theme of it with WrestleMania in Hollywood. Love the movie skit segments they did. I thought that was all really good. And then the main events are more historical importance. I'm not going to pretend that Cena, JBL, or Batista, Triple H were great matches, but they were important. They were significant matches. What they meant for WWE and meant for the wrestling business was important. I think these matches with Cena, JBL, and Batista, Triple H, neither of these matches were any better or worse than the WrestleMania 22 main event, Kevin, with Triple H and Cena. Neither were instant classics, but I thought both
Cena
of them
JBL was worse than Cena Triple H.
But not by much. Not by much. But yeah, pretty similar. Both just more significance of wrestling and significance of what they meant. So yeah, I thought 21 was fantastic. I have it at 4. You have it at 3. Kevin, bounce pass over to you. Talk to us.
The opener. First of all, the opener it's in the top 3. opening matches at WrestleMania. I've already said that many times throughout this show. Rey Mysterio versus Eddie. This was really Rey Mysterio's coming out party into the mainstream and becoming a big star in WWE. Up until this point, it was like, it's Rey Mysterio, great cruiserweight for WCW, cool mask, cool merchandise. But he was like a mid-card guy. Here he became a big star. And this was the start of one of my favorite storylines of wrestling history. The storyline that seemingly never ended, pal. Eddie and Rey, which culminated in a match for the custody of Rey Mysterio's son, Dominic, who is now running Ramshod as a top heel in WWE, 20 or 18 years later? Which is crazy to think about.
The storyline's still going 18 years later, Kevin. Carry on.
Yeah, literally, Dominic's talking about how he wishes he was Eddie's son, just like this past Friday on SmackDown. Incredible stuff. This match, flawless. It's a great match. I would say this is I think you could say it's a top 50 wrestling match of all time. I think you could put it in that conversation. And then Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels. That is a top 15 match, in my opinion, ever. I don't even think it's debatable. If that's not in your top 15, I don't know if I could take your opinion on wrestling matches serious. Like it just that's the way I see it. It's objectively one of the best matches we've ever seen. 28-minute classic. These are two absolute best in-ring technicians in their prime, at their best, having a wrestling match to see who the best in-ring wrestler is. Very simple storyline. It was similar to the Jericho Shawn build, but not quite the same. Got some memorable moments leading up, like notably Kurt Angle and Sherry singing I'm a Sexy Kurt. An all-time legendary comedy classic moment. Yeah, legendary, absolutely. Do you agree with what I've said about Rey and Eddie and Angle and Shawn Michaels so far?
I think, yes. I think that's one of the absolute all-time great matches. I do. I agree.
But would you put Rey and Eddie in your top 50 matches of all time?
I would not, but I don't have any negative things to say. It's just personal preference.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, you could debate it. Like you would listen to the argument. And that's so far we got 2 top 50 matches, which not a lot of WrestleManias have, even the ones that we've covered. So that's big for it. The buy rate was 1.9 million. One of the top 5 most purchased WrestleManias. Then you have the inaugural Money in the Bank match, star-studded Money in the Bank match. Edge, Kane, Jericho, Benjamin, Benoit, and Christian. Simple to the point. Maybe the best Money in the Bank match. The original is the best, maybe. Then you have Undertaker and Randy Orton. So I'm going through let me go through the card in chronological order. Rey versus Eddie, Money in the Bank, inaugural Money in the Bank match. Then you go right to Undertaker and Randy Orton. That is an incredible flow. The Undertaker and Randy Orton match at the time, I don't know if a lot of people thought it was great, but in hindsight, a lot of people look at it very well regarded. Some people would even argue that's a top 50 WrestleMania or wrestling match of all time. I wouldn't, but some people would. Then you have Trish Stratus versus Christy Hemme, 4-minute match for the women's title. Was what it was. Nothing memorable there. The Angle Michaels already covered that. You had Aki Bono versus Big Show. Whatever. I mean, this is a 8-match card. This is an 8-match card. That's literally the only match that sucked. 6 matches were really good, and then Trish and Christy Hemme was pretty good. Then you had 1, 2, 3, 4 great matches on this card with the Money in the Bank, Taker Orton, Rey, Eddie, and Kurt and Shawn. And then the main events was Cena and JBL. Cena winning the WWE title, becoming the face of SmackDown. Batista beating Triple H after a really good storyline with Evolution and Young Lion versus Old Lion, even though they're the same age. And Batista winning the belt. Show going off the air with Batista holding the big gold belt. What a heavyweight champion is supposed to look like in the minds of a lot of people. In both guys, Cena and Batista. Cena was still liked. Batista was liked. I mean, this WrestleMania is flawless, bro. Flawless. It's an absolute Mount Rushmore WrestleMania.
Well, you listed a 4 with the sumo match, but I don't even view that as a match. That was like that
It's a
felt that to me
popcorn
like
break.
a 5-minute bathroom break segment. That wasn't even. I didn't really count that. So
Yeah, that's a popcorn break.
yeah, no, 21 was great. It continued this trend of 17, 19, then 21. All those shows just every other year were just all timers. Yeah, I don't have much else to add. You did a very good job summarizing that show with 21. I just think significance of those main events, flow of the show, basically all hits, no misses, and the theme of the show. So yeah, Mount Rushmore, WrestleMania, 21.
And I love the Hollywood skits too. They were fantastic. And I'm glad WWE is doing them again this year for the WrestleMania Goes Hollywood again.
How are you excited to see Johnny Gargano play one of Snow White's 7 dwarves?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I can't wait, pal. Jeez.
Okay.
Alright, so you had this WrestleMania 4th.
Yeah, I had this 4, you had this 3.
Right. And I had WrestleMania 10 4th. And
Okay.
I'll make my case why, again, just briefly, why WrestleMania 10 is in my Mount Rushmore. The significance of the 2 matches involved impacted wrestling from an in-ring standpoint. Because those matches were way ahead of their time. Both of them, Bret and Owen, and Razor and Shawn. Razor Shawn influenced an era of wrestling that has now evolved to the point where we have like death matches now on pay-per-view and major wrestling companies. But, you know, it's not all Razor and Shawn's fault, but Razor and Shawn started it with the ladder match.
Yeah.
And that match changed the way mainstream wrestling was perceived. Up until that point, we didn't really see weapons in the ring a lot. In WWE TV, at least. It was not very common. And a ladder match had never been done before. And then we got TLC matches. You know, Hell in a Cell matches. Money in the Bank ladder matches. We saw what the Edge Christian and the Hardys and the Dudleys did. Because that ladder match spawned it all. It's the granddaddy of all the crazy ladder matches, TLC matches, everything that we've seen, all the raising the stakes. And then Bret and Owen showed that 2 good technical wrestlers could be showcased on a WrestleMania, on an all-time great WrestleMania. That paved the way for guys like Angle and Benoit to have mat classics in the middle of WrestleMania 17. For Kurt and Shawn to do what they did. That was the first match of its kind that I can think of where it was like, okay, we're just going to show who the 2 best in-ring wrestlers were. And on top of that, it had an all-time great story in brother versus brother. The jealous younger brother being jealous of his older brother who's the bigger star. Classic storyline. One of my favorite storylines. It's cut from the same cloth of the Ray and Eddie storyline, not as over the top, but it's cut from the same cloth. The significance of those 2 matches and that show is why I have 10 in my Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. To me, I think it's no secret what 1 and 2 are. For me, number 3 and what sentimentally to me is a Mount Rushmore WrestleMania. And you'll probably be surprised by this, but if you've listened to me talk for years now, it really won't be. I got WrestleMania 28 as my number 3. For this one, I mean, we talked about the buy rate. It was the most bought WrestleMania of all time. The hype for this show was through the roof. I felt they delivered. WrestleMania is the showcase of the Immortals. That's the whole theme of this. And to have Cena versus The Rock when they're both near enough in their prime, granted Rock was still a tiny bit rusty, but the build for this was unlike any other match in WrestleMania history. This, at the time, really did feel like the biggest match ever. And like I didn't grow up watching Hogan versus Andre. I can only imagine that was similar with the sort of hype, the sort of, oh my God, I need to see that sort of feeling. And maybe, some other matches as we've listed before. But yeah, this Cena Rock match, the build, the hype, all of it. I mean, it showed from the buy rate. I love that match, everything to do with it. I thought it was great. I love the shock of The Rock winning. Everyone thought Cena would just win, but The Rock won, which was nuts. I mean, you discussed the end of an era match earlier with Undertaker and Triple H, and how that's a match you could show anyone. That's a match which the story to it, the emotion to it, the stars involved. You've got literally Mr. WrestleMania as the referee, Triple H, who literally runs the company now, one of the all-time greats, and The Undertaker, who was 19-0 at WrestleMania coming in. So that was just a phenomenal hour of the show. Loved every part of that. And Punk and Jericho, I really enjoyed that. Everything to do with that. The storyline I enjoyed for the most part. Some segments are a bit iffy. But just generally, the whole thing of Jericho going after CM Punk, he got really personal in the build, bring up the sister, bring up the father, bring up the alcoholism, all this sort of thing, calling him out for not being really straight edge, calling him a fraud. CM Punk standing up for himself. It was Punk's best actual storyline in the 434-day run. There was a lot of not great stuff. This was the best part of the reign, so that was great. Those 3 matches, yes, fairly top heavy, but just the hype to them, the buy rate I touched on before. I love the theme of this show. I love the fact that it was in Miami. I love the theme song. I love Invincible being used by MGK and all the music they used with it. I thought, hype is through the roof. It had moments. Obviously, the opener with Daniel Bryan and Sheamus is just a shocking moment, 18 seconds for the world title match. And it really did lead to what you discussed before with WrestleMania 30 and the Daniel Bryan moment. This was like the starting point for that for Daniel Bryan. So, yeah, just all around, I love the show. I've got Mount Rushmore. I know you put this at 10, and that's fair. I understand. I'm not going to yell at you for that. I just think this show was just sensational.
I can't tell you how upset I am till this day, that I did not go to this WrestleMania. Literally, it's in Miami. It's like 45 minutes from where I live. So upset to this day I did not go, bro. Like, wow. I don't know. I was sleeping on it, because they announced tickets like 7 months beforehand.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Cena and Rock were gonna have a wrestling match. I didn't know. Like, I knew, but I didn't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, it's happening, but do I really care that much? And they hadn't really built it much by then.
Yeah. I know that we had WrestleMania 27. Rock announced that he's gonna face Cena, but Rock is a Hollywood star. Like, is he really gonna wrestle Cena? Like, is that real?
Yeah. I mean, this show 28 was so good. They used a whole WrestleMania with WrestleMania 27 as build for 28.
Oh my god, thank you for that.
That doesn't tell you what it's about. Like, WWE knew 28 was a big all-time WrestleMania. The WWE themselves know it. And
yeah, they threw away a whole WrestleMania just to prove how big WrestleMania 28 is.
Vince McMahon had The Miz run out in the main event, pushing pool floats, dancing and shimmying with Alex Riley. Oh, man. Because they knew that show meant nothing. WrestleMania 28 the next year in Miami, 45 minutes from you, pal, is where it's at.
So upset that I didn't go, bro. Literally. Wow. Man, jeez. I wish I could have gone. I should have gone.
Like, I will hear, understand you want to make the counterpoint of, the undercard, maybe the flow for the first hour wasn't as good as some other WrestleManias. I get it. I'll hear that happily. But just generally the 2.5 to 3 hours of main events for this show were just seamless. So yeah, that's my point of view with it. I have it Mount Rushmore for me. Not to say everyone has to, but to me it is.
I wonder how many people will agree with you with that. It's like just doing a little bit of deep diving and seeing what other websites and other journalists and fans rank WrestleManias. 28 didn't really come up a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like the general consensus, if we did a poll, I guess maybe one of us should do this on Twitter. Take a poll and see where people would rank at 28. My feeling is that people would put it in the 10 to 12 range. Right. But what do you think?
I think people put it 10 to 15. I think you should tweet this because your account gets way more engagements. I think this would be an interesting one to see. I think I've got this really the highest you can possibly rank it. No one's putting 28 as the all-time great WrestleMania. If you do, you shouldn't have an opinion. But yeah, I don't know. This show, it's a bit sentimental as well. This is my first proper WrestleMania being invested. And WWE had once in a lifetime, which was, at the time, seeing those promos where you got Cena and The Rock, who'd been both top guys in the company for 6 years at a time, respectively, these megastars going at it, it felt like, oh my God, this is just unbelievable. So, yeah, I don't know. It's number 3 for me. Then, yeah, we can move on to the top 2, I guess.
Let me ask you real quick before we move on. Yeah, does it hurt this WrestleMania long term that, 11 months later, Vince McMahon was just like, here we go, pal. Twice in a lifetime. You're getting Cena Rock again.
Yes. Yeah, that is a stain because of the aftermath. If Kevin, if they did a WrestleMania 29, literally anything else, people look back on 28 more fondly, but people just look back on this and go, oh, twice in a lifetime. Yeah, the Undertaker match was good. The Punk match was good. Yeah, good Mania. Not that special. That's how people look back on this. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so my number 2, and if you listen to our debate of these 2 WrestleManias here, because you already know what's coming. You know, for me, I have WrestleMania 17 at number 2 of WrestleManias all time, and I know you have it number 1.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong. I have WrestleMania 19 number 1. You can't go wrong either way. WrestleMania 17 has 1 top 50 match, or 2. Yeah, we'll say 2. It has 2 top 50 wrestling matches of all time. What do you think? How many top 50 wrestling matches of all time can we have, pal? I feel like we named 50 already.
No, we've only named like 20, let's be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think TLC 2 objectively is.
Top 15.
And then I'd say the Rock and Austin match, significance alone puts it up there, but it was just a great match. It was a fantastic main event WrestleMania match. So I'd have that there. I know you say it says not a 5-star match, but yeah.
Yeah, you got TLC 2, which is objectively top 15 all time. You can't debate it, pal. This is another one. The influence of this match is still felt to this day. Talk about car crash wrestling. I mean, this was one of the first that we saw on mainstream television. The first one was the Triangle Ladder match for SummerSlam 2000. And yeah, I mean, you look at this card. We already ran through this entire card.
Yeah, we've done this as a 3-hour podcast, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, top to bottom. This is what, an 11 match card? Let's see. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of the 12 matches were really good, if not great. And then you had what, 1, 2, 3 really big time, big fight feel WrestleMania matches, and that's Shane and Vince, Edge, Christian, the Dudleys, and the Hardys, and Austin Rock. I would say those are the 3 cornerstones of this WrestleMania. Yeah, The Undertaker and Triple H co-main evented, but the storyline for that match was, oh my god, Kane is going to kill Stephanie McMahon to get William Regal to give Undertaker a match with Triple H. Yeah. So I wouldn't say the build for that match was worthy of like as big of a fight as the match was. The match, I mean, you got Undertaker, American Badass Taker, you got Triple H in his absolute apex with Motorhead screaming him down to the ring. The match delivered. Great match. Part of it that hurts this match's legacy is the fact that Taker and Triple H had 2 all-time classics a decade later. And the fact that the build was really poor. But we already talked about the build-up for Shane and Vince. I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go listen to the other show if you want to hear a full breakdown of that. Oh.
Yeah, yikes. Woo! Yeah, I mean, that's like, that match damn near ended WWE, pal. That almost caused the sponsors to pull out of WWE, pal. So yeah, I mean, what do you want to say about 17? I know this is your number 1.
I just want to say, just with these 2, I mean, they're both very, very much on par, as we discussed in that big show that you guys enjoyed listening to, which, some feedback from that I've already seen come through, really positive, so I appreciate that. To me, I've got 17 at 1, 19 at 2. I think I went over this in the podcast we did comparing them, but really the main thing, I look at the blemishes of each show because there's so much good on both that it's not like some of these other WrestleManias where you name the good and you compare that. With these shows, you just kind of name the faults because there's not many, and that's kind of how I separate them. To me, WrestleMania 19 was 4 of them. It was the Booker T and especially the ending to that match, but really the storyline, very questionable. It was Austin's health. Yeah, it wasn't... If he was like 100%, that would have been much better. The botch ending with Brock nearly killing himself, and then The Undertaker's position on the show, wrestling second versus A-Train and Big Show. It's a bit not great. Now look at WrestleMania 17, as you just discussed. The story with Triple H and The Undertaker was very questionable. The ending, very questionable, and Vince McMahon and everything that encompassed the Trish stuff.
And when you say ending, you're referring to Stone Cold and Vince shaking hands, right?
Yes, as we discussed. A very, very debated, questionable ending that may or may not have ruined wrestling for the next ever.
It did. Definitely did. So you have 3 major flaws with WrestleMania 17, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, well, really, I mean, the Taker Triple H story to me isn't a major flaw. Like, I thought it was just a bit like, eh. I mean, there's been better wrestling stories, but there's been much worse, especially involving Triple H. Like, I didn't think that
I
was.
think the fact that WWE creatively had nothing to do with either one of these guys. It was
Yeah,
just like, here, we're gonna throw them together, put them in a match. I think that's a bigger flaw.
yeah. I think you can put the flaws of the WrestleMania set. Every flaw of WrestleMania 17 objectively involves Vince McMahon. So
Yeah,
yeah,
facts.
because his match, everything that encompassed that nearly got them like literally fully cancelled in 2001. You've got the ending where he's involved. You've got the booking of Undertaker and Triple H. That's all Vince McMahon issues. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're like WrestleMania 19. You look at the flaws. Triple H and Booker T. That's on par with the Vince and Stephanie, or Vince and Trish and Stephanie stuff. Yeah, I would say that those are on par. I'll push back a little bit on the Brock Lesnar botch. I wouldn't consider that's a flaw. Like that's part of the memorability of this show. Just watching Brock Lesnar attempt a shooting star press, nearly kill himself, and only suffer a concussion. I think it's crazy. And it didn't affect the match. The match was still great. One of the 10 best WrestleMania main events of all time.
yeah,
So I would push back on that. And then, yeah, I mean, Undertaker's placement on the card is indefensible. There's nothing that I could even say or anyone could say. Undertaker needed the help of Australia's finest, Nathan Jones, to defeat a jobber in Lord Tensai and Big Show. Like,
that's truly awful.
how did Mark Calloway not walk out? How did he not protest this, pal? And then, yeah, I mean, Rocket Austin. Yeah, Austin was in poor health, but they still put on a really great match, worthy of what those two could do. It was a classic Rock Austin match. A lot of brawling, a lot of punching, kicking, stomping a mud hole. Just like a wrestling match that looks like a simulated fight. And it was well done. That's what those two guys are really good at. Austin in particular. Neither one of those guys are, work rate technicians. They're not going to have a match on the level of Kurt Angle and Shawn. And Austin didn't really need to be in perfect health to do that. To have a classic brawl style match. Yeah, but I mean, it's so indefensible. The Triple H and Booker T scenario. Just, yeah. Tough to look back on 20 years later. Really tough to look back on. So yeah, I mean, I rank WrestleMania 19 higher, just because I feel like this show had less filler, and I think it flowed a little better, and I really love that turning point where it's just like from matches 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, it's just big match after big match. Starts with Shawn and Jericho, which I would say is a top 15 wrestling match of all time. Then you get Triple H and Booker T, was what it was, but storyline aside and ending aside, still two pretty big stars, two Hall of Famers. It was a good match for the first 17 minutes and 30 seconds. Hogan and Vince, which was the absolute focal point of the promotion for this show, and part of the reason why it was a pay-per-view flop. Nevertheless, it was still a great match. They still delivered. I wouldn't say that's like a top 50 match or anything. Nothing like that. Not gonna get crazy. On The Rock and Stone Cold, if you want to argue that this is a top 50 wrestling match, I would listen to you. Same with Brock and Kurt Angle.
Yep.
So you have one certified top 15 wrestling match of all time. You have two that could be argued as top 50. So that's similar. That's pretty much the same as 17, right? You got two matches that could be argued as top 50, and one that is undoubtedly in the top 50. It's just so close. In terms of memorable moments at 19, you're not going to spend too much time, but Rock nearly killing himself, Austin's last match, Rock going off to Hollywood, just that whole storyline concluding. That was the final act of the Attitude Era.
Yep.
Shawn getting low blowed by Jericho, the hug, all that stuff. And then these are two WrestleManias. These are the two WrestleManias that I would show to my friends and family. If I want to show people that don't really like wrestling, I want to convince them, show them why wrestling isn't all bad and all fake and all phony bullshit. These are the first two shows that I'm going to show them.
Pal, you wouldn't show them WrestleMania 30 with the Vicky Guerrero Divas Invitational?
Oh my god. This guy.
No. But yeah, pal, also I just want to say, this is almost unrelated, but it's related to WrestleMania 19 and my whole gimmick. Can I just say Nathan Jones may be the most interesting person. Like I'm while you're saying this, I'm having a look at his Wikipedia. Just this is kind of unrelated, but it's actually interesting. He was literally sentenced to 8 different armed robberies performed in Australia when he was he was like my age basically. And he was in prison, and then he became like a powerlifting champion and like world strongman because of taking steroids. And then he was a mixed martial artist, and then he looked to do WWE, but he couldn't go to the United States because his visa wouldn't allow it because of his criminal history. Then WWE, shadily brought him in, and then Wrestling Observer Newsletter voted him the worst wrestler and most embarrassing wrestler of 2003. And then he retired.
Wow.
And then Kevin, then 2008, 5 years later, he got signed by TNA, but then nerve damage caused by a cement truck hitting his left arm sidelined him for the first 3 months. Then he never wrestled for the promotion and left. That's Nathan Jones. That might be the most interesting person ever in wrestling.
That sounds like a Wrestling Uncovered video if I ever heard one.
That's incredible. He performed 8 armed robberies on Bogger Road. You need to do a Wrestling Uncovered on that guy, but yeah, you should do like Wrestling's Forgotten Man or something. I don't know, but nonetheless, Kevin, back to the topic of the podcast. I've got WrestleMania 19 number 2, 17 1. You've got 19 at 1, 17 2. So yeah, there you go.
There you go. All right, so I'm gonna run through my top 10 list just one more time. At 10, I have 28. 9, I have 3. 8, 22. 7, 23. 6, 24. 5, WrestleMania 30. 4, WrestleMania 10. 3, WrestleMania 21. 2, WrestleMania 17. And 1, WrestleMania 19.
Yep. Love it. I've got at number 10, I've got WrestleMania 14. At number 9, I've got WrestleMania 20. At number 8, I've got WrestleMania 3. At number 7, I've got WrestleMania 23. Number 6, I've got 10. Number 5, I've got 24. Number 4, I've got 21. Number 3, I've got 28. And then number 2, WrestleMania 19. And then number 1, 17, pal.
There you go, pal. Here we are. We made it to the end of this discussion, pal.
Pal, we're producing WrestleMania bangers right here. So yeah, this show will drop about a week and a half to WrestleMania. Next week, look out for our WrestleMania 39 preview and predictions. It's gonna be a whole special show, and there may be a debate in there as well. Waits to be seen.
There you go, pal. This was fantastic. We'll talk to you guys on the next one.
Peace.